afternoon to all of you. I am Sujay Majumdar, Project Coordinator and Head of Regional Science Center, Guwahati. RSC Guwahati, which is one of the units of National Council of Science Museums, Government of India. On behalf of the Science Center, I welcome you all to this deliberation, Coronavirus in Perspective, its Origin, Spread, Severity, Treatment and Recovery. Today's speaker is Dr. Jayanto Biswa Sharma. He is the lead consultant microbiologist, Mid Yorkshire Hospital, UK. Welcome, Dr. Sharma. We are extremely thankful to you for accepting our request to deliver this lecture. You all are aware that the coronavirus pandemic has had a substantial adverse impact in all walks of life. We know that the origin of this virus is not yet tracked, and there are confusions among the people. So we would like to know what the experts are thinking. We feel that the basis of the therapeutics prescribed is changing regularly. So we would like to know how are we to cope with it. We see there are post-COVID and long COVID complications. So we feel we need to know what are they and what to do to negotiate with it. We hope this webinar will dispel misconception and disinformation. All this we understand will be explained by Dr. Sharma. Our wish list is long and it may take a while for Dr. Sharma to deal with this long list of our issues. We request you all to get along with his deliberation and preserve your questions for the end session. You may also type them in the chat box or comment box, and we will try to address them as much as possible. Now, please allow me to formally introduce Dr. Jayanto Biswa Sharma. Dr. Jayanto Biswa Sharma became a medical graduate from Guwahati Medical College, Assam, and then obtained a master's degree in molecular microbiology from Manchester University. He was awarded MRC Path degree in medical microbiology by the Royal College of Pathologists, London. On his tenure in Northumbria Healthcare NHS Foundation Trust as consultant microbiologist, he was conferred FRC Path by the Royal College of Pathologists. Dr. Sharma developed a keen interest in antimicrobial resistance and healthcare associated infections, and in pursuing this interest, he obtained a diploma in hospital infection control from London School of Hygiene Tropical Medicine. He got his PhD from Guwahati University for his research towards discovery of a novel mechanism of resistance, that is superbug NDM1, in Guwahati Medical College Hospital, Assam, which further led to the collaborative publication of one of his highest cited papers in the Lancet Infectious Disease in 2010. He has co-authored several scientific papers in this area of antimicrobial resistance and infection control. His keen interest in molecular microbiology and microbiome led him to pursue his second MSc in genomics from Newcastle University in 2019. For 16 years, he was a clinical lecturer in Newcastle University, and then since June 2020, he is working as lead consultant microbiologist at the Mid Yorkshire Hospitals, NHS Trust. He is a visiting honorary faculty at the Center for Environment, IIT Guwahati, India. Dr. Sharma regularly writes popular articles to promote understanding of various social and scientific issues in Assamese vernacular media. An accomplished author, he has published an anthology of essays and 3 translations of epics English to Assamese. He is the founding chief editor of one of the highest circulated Assamese youth magazine, Bar Uthara. Dr. Sharma is involved with several social enterprises, the latest being Assam Healthcare Cooperative Society, a flagship enterprise of which he is the founding vice chairman. I now hand over the forum to Dr. Jayanto Biswa Sharma for his lecture. Thank you and welcome, sir.
Thank you, Sujay. Thank you for your introduction.
Thank you, sir.
And good afternoon to all of you who are assembled here today. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to present a perspective, because to a large extent, reality is shaped by our perspective. So my reality may not be your reality, although we share a lot of common realities, but the entire reality is, everybody's reality is actually unique to him or her. So reality is shaped by perspective, and the current perspective on coronavirus, the popular perspective, the dominant perspective, is just one perspective. It may be the dominant perspective, it may be the popular perspective, but there are certainly other perspectives as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm based on data and research findings, I'm going to present certain things to you which maybe not brought to your attention by the popular media or by the popular experts. So hopefully you will find it interesting. But I don't know whether I can do justice to this subject, because this is a multidimensional subject. It is a very in-depth subject. It's a very wide subject, but let me see what I can do. So I'm going to present my slide now. Let me bring it up for you. I'm going to share the screen.
Yes, sir.
And so this is my desktop, and I am now bringing up the presentation. And Sujoy, please confirm me that
Yes.
the presentation is up.
Yes, sir. It's up now.
Yeah. Okay. So coronavirus in perspective. Origin, spread, severity, treatment, and recovery. I'm going to touch each of those points, but basically, I will display a lot of figures, lot of slides, lot of graphs to you, and a short film as well. And this is what it is. It is a multidimensional. Sorry, my phone is making a bit of a noise. Oh, let me tell you, I am currently on duty, so I may get 1 or 2 calls from hospital. I may be briefly interrupted, but that should not be a big problem. Usually calls are brief, so I can quickly deal with the matter and can come back to the presentation. So this is a multidimensional subject, and there are multiple perspectives. And you can see people are now coming up with their own story, own perspectives. And the 5 titles I have displayed here, if you had a quick look, you could see that these are not the popular perspective. Every writer is trying to present a different perspective. In fact, I actually bought all these 5 books just a few days back. I haven't read any of those yet, but I just glanced over. But you can see, you know, and we'll be going to be reading a lot of books like this for next 10 years, 20 years. The story of Corona would be told for a generation, maybe even in the next generation. So this is such a momentous event, and I think we probably are not, while dealing with the day-to-day anxiety, we are probably not appreciating historically how big is this event. Okay, let me make you watch this short film. So this is such a tremendous event, and I think we probably are not while dealing with the day-to-day.
Sir, voice is not coming, sir.
Sorry, voice is not coming?
No, sir, voice is not coming, sir.
I don't know. You just watch the film.
Okay, no issue, sir. No issue, sir.
So, I mean, this is not a film about Birbal's intelligence. Actually, I'm making a larger point that in this world, everything is relative. If you try to understand something in its absolute terms, you are going to fail. Everything that we understand, it is in relation to something else. And that is what that is a long line in no time is made shorter, but by drawing a longer line by its side. I found this story, this Birbal story, very, very interesting. And every modern man should try to appreciate what is the moral of the story. It is not about the intelligence. He is talking about, it is actually the relativity, you know, it is social relativity. And that we cannot understand something in its true light if we don't compare it with something similar. So you will see why I have shown this film and why I am making this point. It will become clearer as I move on. Okay, the origin of coronavirus is, if we go by its predecessors, you know, there are a number of predecessors of coronavirus, the current SARS coronavirus SARS-2. Just a moment. My God. Okay, so let me tell you, altogether at the moment, we know about 3 coronaviruses that are quite serious. SARS-1, SARS-2, and the MERS, you know about those. MERS and SARS-1 are kind of, we do not know whether they are extinct, but they are not, at the moment, they are active. They are not causing any issues to ourselves. The SARS-2, coronavirus SARS-2 is the latest addition of this highly pathogenic group of coronaviruses. But in addition, there are 4 other coronaviruses that causes common cold to us. And in terms of origin, I think the established theory or the established narrative is that it has originated in the animal kingdom, in bats, in all the coronaviruses, excepting these 2, 2004 and 2065, we had OC43 and HKU1. These 2 are thought to be originated in rats, but other than all coronaviruses are thought to be originated in bats. And then what they do, a animal virus cannot infect a human in a very efficient way. It is just impossible because there are species barrier. So what happens? They kind of adapt themselves in intermediate host. It could be camels, it could be another mammal, you know, a mammalian intermediate host. They get adapted there are genetic adaptation, and they become a bit efficient in terms of, you know, infecting human being. A lot of actually mutations goes on, and one of the mutant strain just happened to be that it can actually now infect human being. So that is the theory. And so far we know about coronavirus, you know, SARS-2. You know that there is conspiracy theory that of late, last few months, there has been a lot of quite forcefully, a group of scientists has come forward, and they have floated the theory that probably coronaviruses escaped a laboratory, the Wuhan virology laboratory. They are you know, few months back, you know, WHO team visited China, and they kind of thought, no, we didn't find anything suspicious, probably, you know, nothing to do with this particular lab. So the WHO didn't find anything suspicious. But subsequent to that, a group of scientists and scientific reporters, they came out quite forcefully, making a very strong case. So what is the status of that case? I think it is still a speculation. We haven't gone anything forward in terms of getting any confirmation that the virus has leaked from the laboratory. I think, in my personal opinion, is that I do not buy that thing personally, because we know all the rest of the coronaviruses, there is a track record. They evolved in animal kingdom, they got adapted in the intermediate host, and they transmitted to the human being. So why it would be different for this coronavirus? You ask yourself, what is the plausibility? What is the possibility? Why it would be anything different? Because to make something so efficient in a lab again, it has to be a very, it has to be a fluke, such event that even if in the lab it got produced, I think a human being cannot design this thing in such a way that it would be so successful. I think that is a bit unlikely. But here there is an interesting question. The virology laboratories all over the world, I think all over the world would be a wrong term, but certain virology laboratories are doing experiment, what is called gain of function experiment. They are trying to play with pathogenic viruses, trying to make it more pathogenic, more transmissible, more potent in terms of its ability to cause disease, not with any sinister motive, just to understand if in case one of those virus really to become more pathogenic, then how we would going to counter it. I think from that point of view, certain laboratories are doing this gain of research experiment. And interestingly, these research projects are funded by the USA. In fact, Wuhan laboratory was funded by US government's grant. So we have to keep this in mind, because probably even these experiments are being done with a good intention. Probably we should now think about as a society whether it is a prudent idea to carry on such kind of research, essentially manipulating the nature. I think that is something really pertinent, which probably would lead, this event probably would lead to a debate, and society would come to a conclusion. But my personal view, this particular coronavirus is probably a natural evolution from bats, then some kind of, we haven't found that particular intermediate host as yet in a definitive way, but there has been certain host, pangolin and snake, even snake have been suggested. But to be honest, we didn't quite yet pin it down to its origin, its location, and so on. So therefore, there is doubt in people's mind. But let me tell you, as a virologist, as a microbiologist, I kind of, it is not a scientific statement, but I can give my feeling. It is too successful, it is too perfect to be made by a human being. Coronavirus is a very successful pathogen. So therefore, you have to see things with the balance of probabilities. Okay, let me tell you about the group, a bit about its biology, but I'm not going to dwell too much time. There are 4 groups, alpha, beta, delta, and gamma, but pathogenic coronaviruses belong to the alpha and beta group, as you can see. And SARS coronavirus 2, 1, and the MERS coronavirus, along with 2 cold and cough coronavirus, HKU1 and CC43, they belong to beta group. Then in alpha group, we have got 229E and NL63. They cause cough and cold, but cough and cold could be quite nasty as well. In elderly people, ordinary cough and cold caused by coronavirus can be deadly. And you can see all of these originated, except for, we do not know for sure about coronavirus 2, they all originated in animal kingdom. And other coronavirus are found freely in animal kingdom. This is the structure of the virus. Again, I don't want to dwell too much on it, but I would like to draw your attention to the spike protein. This is the protein, this is the spike protein that kind of neatly binds to a receptor on human cell. I got a diagram in the next slide. I will explain what this lock and key kind of binding mechanism, which allows the virus to get into the human cell, replicate there, and then come out. Then a lot of progeny viruses which come out and go on to infect other human beings. So this is what happens. This spike protein 2 binds to ACE2 receptor, angiotensin and angiotensin converting enzyme 2. This is found in many cells on human human bodies, mainly on respiratory epithelial cells, but also in kidney and in cells in hearts and kidneys and many other organs as well. So this is a lock and key binding mechanism. And what with the vaccine, what we are trying to do, the vaccines neutralizes the spikes protein so that they can no longer bind to this SCE2. That's how vaccine works. But essentially, they bind to this receptor, they get in there, then they use the cellular mechanism to multiply itself. It multiplies all its components. Everything is produced by our own cellular mechanism. So the virus take advantage of the cellular mechanisms. They don't have their own mechanism. And then all the components are assembled and then they come out. It would not be just one coming out. Many, multiple, thousands, lakhs would be coming out. So this is how they replicate, and they are ready to infect another human being given the chance. Okay, this is not related to coronavirus, but let me tell you, don't be enemy of these bacteria and viruses. Don't take a position, oh, they are all there to kill us. It is not like that. These bacteria and viruses and all these microorganisms are actually beneficial. Without them, we cannot live. This is the human being with its organ. And this is the human being with all its bacteria and viruses on its skin and on its respiratory system and any surfaces, mucosal surfaces and skin surfaces. And when we combine two, then you and I become complete. So without these bugs, we are an incomplete human being. We cannot even survive. So this is a trivia. This is a useful information. I am just throwing it for your information. Then let me tell you a little bit about our defense mechanism. Even before our body starts producing specific defense against a specific organism, body is already equipped with non-specific defenses to deal with invading organisms. Especially our respiratory tract is well equipped, so it can deal with any external pathogen coming in, and that is non-specific. But non-specific defense is the first line of defense. But if the bacteria and virus can pass through this first line of defense, then body start producing the specific defense in terms of antibody and cell-mediated immunity. But sometimes what happens when body, starts mounting these specific defenses against an invading organisms, it goes into overdrive, and in its effort to eliminate the invading organism, it actually causes harms to our own cells, own organs. And this is what happens in coronavirus infection. During the first phase up to 7, it is just the virus causing harm, virus replicating, damaging cells. All the signs and symptoms are because of that. But from day 7 onwards, if the body is not in total control, if our specific immune mechanism is excited in a wrong way, then what happens? There are a lot of damages caused to our own body by our own system, own immune system, and that is what we see in the late complications of coronavirus infection. In a minority, but most people, 80-90% people, are either asymptomatic or suffer from very mild disease, and they get better within 4, 5, 7 days. So this is something, a very fundamental understanding that we can do it. And in regards to this respiratory defense system, let me mention one particular thing. In our respiratory epithelium, respiratory epithelial cells are special. They got something called, what we call cilia. Cilia is like a, there is a cilia. The cilia causes a like a lining on our respiratory system. They are like little little thread, and they are very efficient in terms of, because ciliary movement is like towards upward movement. You know, it wave is such that it can actually, anything coming in, it can actually throw them out. You know, that's how ciliary movement. Along with our mucus, this mucociliary defense mechanism is very, very a potent non-specific defense mechanism. And in certain environment, in a low humid condition, our mucociliary response get compromised. So I will come to this later on, but for the time being, if you remember, when the environmental humidity is low, this mucociliary response is very adversely impaired. Okay, this is a very interesting, it's a very basic concept. Let me explain. There is something called basic reproduction number, which is called R naught, which is a function of the pathogen, the organism, and a lot of other factors. So, but what it is essentially, if reproduction number of a particular organism is 2, then this is what would happen in an ideal situation. In a schema, it's an ideal situation. Real life is different. It is only on the diagram. The first person would infect 2. Then these 2 persons, each of them would infect another 2. Then again, the third generation would again infect another 2, and it would go on. So it would be a logarithmic increase, 2, 4, 16. You know, you can imagine within no time, lakhs and thousands and lakhs of people would be infected. But in reality, it doesn't happen, because it is not that every single one of these people would necessarily infect 2. Some may infect 1, some may infect 3, some may infect none. So this is an essential understanding. It is on theory, on papers, it looks like, oh my goodness. But in reality, one person may actually infect 10, and one may not infect even a single one. So this is an average. These numbers are derived from observation, from real life observations, or from experiment. But nobody can be 100% sure about this R naught number for a particular pathogen. Usually we get a range, because it depends not only on the property of the organism, but on many other factors. Let me read out few other factors. Any factor that can influence the contact rate, including population density. So people has to mix for virus or bacteria that transmit from human to human without any environmental source. The people need to mix, they need to come into contact for the virus to be transmitted from the infected to the non-infected susceptible, individual. But that doesn't happen. It depends on the population density. It depends on local societal behavior and the organization of the society and environmental circumstances and seasonality. So these will actually ultimately affect the R naught. So it is a very complex equation. You have heard about mathematical modelings. People predicting, scientists predicting, oh, if we don't do this many people would die. None of the prediction has come true, because the models are based on very simplistic assumption. They cannot actually, if your parameters are not derived from real life, and to derive parameters from real life is very difficult. You need to have observed, you need to observe, you need to find out. It doesn't happen when a outbreak is just starting. You are struggling for those parameters. So you have to assume a lot of things, and those assumptions are often we get wrong with our assumption. That's why mathematical modelings on this occasion hasn't been very successful. In addition, there are other pitfalls as well, because this is a game of probability. So linear mathematical modelings doesn't quite take into account the probabilistic nature of this kind of phenomenon. But people are improving on the model, they are working, research going on, new models are being developed. So hopefully in due course we would be much more efficient in terms of our prediction. Let me read this second bullet point. since a pandemic occurs across many different populations, geographies, and climates, the R naught may vary considerably from country to country or even within a country. And you will all see this when I put up the different epidemiological graphs. So, for example, there are more than 20 different R naught values were reported for measles. Measles is one of the most infectious pathogen. But there are more than 20 different R values are reported. So things are not simple as we are given to understand. So let me read this a few bullet points. R naught is a mathematical term describing contagiousness. It is a number of people that might be infected from one infected host. And if R naught is less than 0, the illness is considered to be not highly contagious. So the transmission would not occur, it would die down. If R naught is more than 1, then disease would spread, it would be an epidemic. And if R naught is just 1, then disease would be endemic. So disease would be in the society, it would not decrease or disappear, but it would be going on at a sustained pace, one infecting one. So disease would always be there. That's called endemic situation. Many diseases are endemic in societies. The SARS coronavirus 2's R naught value is estimated to be kind of, it is a range from 2.24 to as high as 3.58. But again, don't be too pedantic about this point decimal numbers. So essentially, it could be 224. And actually, if you remember that Japanese, the princess, that ship, that princess, that jahaz, that we had that epidemic in Japan's shore. In that epidemic took place in that ship, and I think R naught was as high as 8, I think. So that was a very confined community of probably of a group of people not representative of the real society. So we got an R naught which we taken for like granted that this is the R naught we will see everywhere. It is not the case, but that demonstrated that this coronavirus is highly transmissible. So given the hunch, it could be highly transmissible, but hunch has to be given by whom? Not, it has to get the hunch from many corners, not just from ourselves, from our irresponsible behavior, but it has to get momentum from the season, from the weather, from the humidity point of view, temperature, sun's ultraviolet rays. There are so many other factors as well. So for a pathogen, it is not an easy go. It is a really tough thing that it has to navigate its way. Okay, so basically, let me tell you that SARS coronavirus 2 is more transmissible than influenza, but it is not like twice as transmissible. It is more transmissible than influenza, but not twice as transmissible. Okay, transmissibility, as you know, it is droplets. If I cough out, the larger droplets contain virus particles if I am infected, and then momentarily they are airborne, momentarily and within a 2 meters parameter. So if another person happens to be within the 2 meters parameter, 2 meters, vicinity, then he is at risk. He might catch this virus. That he will, it is not necessarily the case. He might catch the virus. So within 2 meters, if I cough, but what happens? This larger droplets settles down. It settles down on the ground, and then they are no longer a big threat. But if you are in an indoor environment, what happens? You contaminate your desk, you contaminate your sofas, and then virus can be alive on inanimate objects for hours, on some occasion maybe days, but that is not a big threat. Don't get paranoid, because 1 or 2 particles, even if it managed to survive for 10 hours or even 2 days, it cannot cause infection. Because to cause infection, there has to be a certain numbers, and that number is quite high, not 2, 3, particles of the virus. That is, I exactly don't know how many particles you need for coronavirus, but it is certainly in terms of hundreds and thousands. So it is not like that. But what happens sometimes, if the humidity is low, then these droplets evaporates. When they are in suspension, the droplets, larger droplets, evaporates quickly because humidity is low, and then this virus particle become aerosol borne. Yeah, so they can now spread further afield, so they become more transmissible. But don't get worried about it. This is a problem for countries in the northern hemisphere. The country I am in at the moment, during winter, our home is essentially, there is no ventilation. All those windows shut, and we put on the heating. What happens? The inside environment get totally dry. And I already mentioned about the mucociliary response. So my mucociliary response get compromised. And if I now cough or something, obviously my family members' mucociliary response is compromised as well. Now, if I cough, they are more at risk because that droplets evaporates, virus remain in suspension in the room for a longer period of time. So therefore, you can see that northern countries in the northern hemisphere during winter and early spring, they suffered like hell. But whereas the situation is totally opposite in tropical countries, because humidity is high in tropics. And moreover, what happens, usually even the poor man's house in a country like India would have some ventilation. Nobody remains inside the house with windows and doors shut. And that is what we have learned with coronavirus, that each enemy is the natural ventilation. And I'm coming to this point, but I'm making this point just to prepare you for slides coming on this specific subject. The indoor is more riskier than outdoor. So again, think about Birbal, think about the proportionality. Things are not absolute. When I say it is safer in outdoor, that doesn't mean that people would not catch infection in outdoor, but it is chances are very, very less that one would catch infection in the outside. These are coming from basic science, but we will see observation as well. So so far we are talking about basic science. So usually airborne pathogens are more transmissible. For example, we know measles and chickenpox, they are airborne as opposed to spread by respiratory droplets. Corona, influenza, these are spread by respiratory droplets. Only if those droplets evaporates, the virus can become airborne and become more transmissible. And that could happen in an indoor environment in a northern hemisphere country where indoor humidity is very low. But measles and chickenpox, they are airborne from the word go. I cough, I got measles, I cough, I make airborne, I spread measles virus in the air. You may think measles and chickenpox are spread by contact. No, they are manifested on the skin, but they are actually respiratory disease. They are transmitted by respiratory, respiratory airborne particles. Airborne particles are very finer particles. You can go into the micron, how many microns would be for droplet and things like that. I'm not going into giving you measurement, but airborne particles are very fine particles. So let me give you some. I'm building the case. And this is a glass of water. I put a drop of ink, and the ink would now disperse, and whole glass of water would be blue. Coronavirus is not like that. Many people got the idea, oh, virus is everywhere. It would now disperse, and whole India would now be. It is not. It is very localized. We are seeing only clusters. We are not seeing uniform spread like we see with a drop of ink in a glass of water. What we are seeing is clusters. I will show you some photographs. You will understand what I am trying to say. This here, this big blue dot is a super spreading event. One guy in this middle spread it to so many, 7, 8, 9. They gone into different places, gone into their own community. And if their own community, the situation is suitable, congenial for the virus, then he would manage to spread it to few more people. Some would spread to 5, some would spread to 1, some would spread to 9. You know, so that is the mechanism of spread of coronavirus. It doesn't kind of like in a fancy bazaar, in a bazaar, I am there, I got the corona, I would transmit to my next one, the next one would transmit to his next one. You know, it is not like that. The virus has to, struggle. It has to do a lot of, it has to make a lot of effort to actually transmit. So don't think that virus spread like a, ink in a drop of glass. So this illustration is a nice illustration. I took it from a recent publication. So this is an urban setting. This guy, if he is infected, he got chances to transmit it to so many, But if he's in a rural location, his chances is minimal. He could probably transmit it to only 2. His contact time in a rural location may be more. You can see 4 lines here. But here his contact is maybe momentary, maybe brief, but still may be sufficient enough for a virus like COVID-2. So essentially, what we are seeing, that coronavirus somehow being an urban phenomenon, again, I will substantiate what I am telling you. So I have so far made 2 points. It is an indoor phenomenon. It is an outdoor phenomenon. Again, this is not absolute, but by and large. Now, let me, again, we are still discussing the basic science. We are not even moved into the observations as yet. We are dealing with the basic science. During the first wave, not so much during this time, you have heard about flattening the curve, It has become like a parrot, thing, everybody, flattening the curve, go, stay at home, do this thing, that thing, because we need to flatten the curve. So this is what flattening the curve. Why we flatten the curve? Why we try to flatten the curve? We try to flatten the curve only because there is only one reason why we try to flatten the curve. If we don't do that, then number of cases would go up within a short period of time, that our emergency services, mainly the hospitals, would not be able to cope. That is the only reason why we try to flatten the curve. So flattening the curve allows you to keep the cases under control. But you see, you have to pay a price. If you didn't flatten, the epidemic would be done and dusted, This is the time frame. Epidemic would be done and dusted. Now that you have flattened the curve, the epidemic is going on and on and on for months and months on. And when you withdraw all this intervention, all the measures that you put in place, the moment you withdraw it, you would see a sharp second wave. So ultimately, you are not reducing the number of individuals who are going to get infected in the first place. The event, the phenomenon, the virus, it would do its job. It would run its course, but in a longer time frame, allowing us to cope with, so that hopefully vaccine would come out, a drug would come out, we would be able to control it with pharmaceutical, measures. So that's why when Corona came in, it was a very good idea to try to do so, that we flatten the curve. But people actually went one step ahead. We flatten the curve with mitigation. Mitigations are like, okay, close the school, close the cinema halls, close nightclubs. Those are mitigation. But keep people, make people stay at home is never tried before. This is far, far more than mitigation. Keeping people home locked weeks on weeks is something never tried in Western democracy, liberal democracies. why, I mean, it will be discussed why people given up their freedom, much earned liberty, people given up, or government are imposing, people are not revolting. Even the leftist parties are supporting this kind of measures. So it is a very interesting social phenomenon. But what I am trying to say, that if you don't do anything, which can be a policy, then things get done and dusted within a period of 6 to 8 weeks. And if you do what we have been doing, then you prolong the agony. But at the end of the day, the benefits, and the loss, you have to calculate how much you have paid in terms of your economy, in terms of children's education, in terms of personal liberty, in terms of people dying of other diseases. You need to take everything into account before making a policy, isn't it? So this is the perspective I'm trying to give you. Okay, so I so far made the point that it is an indoor phenomenon. And let me, because when I make a point, I cannot make a point from my gray matter. I have to rely on people who are knowledgeable than I am, who experimented, who thought about it. Therefore, everything I'm putting up today is well referenced. So, the vast majority of transmission happens in indoor spaces. Even in China, in Wuhan province, when the report came out, the joint report with WHO came out, that report clearly said that up to 90% of transmission were actually took place within the families. Mark this word. That was the Wuhan epidemic. Up to 90% of the transmission took place within the families. So likelihood of a secondary case, that is I infecting another person, in a 2-person household is around 18%, and in a 6% household is 55%. So who are the 6% household? Obviously the poor people in the society who cannot afford, nice one single room for everybody. The multi-generational families, people in Brazil, in Sao Paulo cities, people in Mumbai slums, in Andheri, in Guwahati, in poor locations. So in a household like that, the transmission sounds, one person transmitting it to 6, other household is 55%. So such kind of, in an indoor, it becomes so dangerous, particularly if we are in a congested living condition. Infection risk is higher among those living in the most deprived neighborhood and those living in large household. The proportion of transmission that is within the home is likely to be highest during period when other social interactions outside the household are minimized. So when you are locked down, you cannot go anywhere for a walk. You are in your house, congested house, 6 members, all the time. If I happen to get infected, invariably I would infect all my, family members. That is what happened during the first wave in Italy, in the United Kingdom, in France and Germany. The virus got into the nursing homes. Nursing homes are old people's residential homes. By definition, they live inside. And on top of that, government imposed lockdown. They cannot even come out to the garden. And once the virus got in there, they just caused devastation. You see, advantages and disadvantages. There are many disadvantages in these rich Western democracies in the Northern Hemisphere countries. These nursing homes are their Achilles heel. Even the hospitals are by definition indoor place. In my hospital that I work, there has been hundreds and hundreds of hospital transmissions. We have declared it now because we are obliged to declare, for transparency. So our trust my hospital has declared it only, a couple of days back. But I knew that all along because I had been dealing with those epidemics. So indoor is dangerous. Very So let me tell you, very little evidence of outdoor transmission of SARS coronavirus 2 and even influenza, other respiratory viruses. Very few evidences. It's a very rare phenomenon that you would catch a respiratory virus while in the outdoor. If you are in an outdoor, but you are mixing, there are caveats, remember the Birbal's, line, it is not absolute. Small number of cases where outdoor transmission may have occurred are associated with gatherings that facilitate close interactions, particularly extended duration, or setting where people mix indoor venues alongside outdoor settings. You are mixing in indoor as well, but also outdoor, it's a mixed hybrid setting. But if you come very close together, in a congested area, then outdoor may be of risk as well. But in general, as a rule of thumb, outdoor is safer compared to indoors. Then let me make this case again. It is an urban phenomenon. Urban areas, especially megacities, have been hardest by COVID-19. Densely populated metropolis are more likely to have large public transport system, more face-to-face interaction, occupations that is kind of, require face-to-face interactions, because, the economic activities, people come into face-to-face, lot of the times, and greater within home overcrowding. Cities are overcrowded, homes are overcrowded. Think about renting a place in Mumbai. You can imagine how crowded a household could be in Delhi and cities like Delhi and Mumbai and New York and Washington DC and so on, and London. And higher income and higher level of income inequality than in rural areas. So these are well referenced. Then more than 4 months after the first cases were detected in Ethiopia, this is a study from Ethiopia, Addis Ababa displayed a prevalence under 5% and likely as low as 2%. Probably Addis Ababa had 2 to 5% kind of prevalence, while rural Zima displayed a prevalence at 0.2%. So there are many studies. So I'm giving you only 2 kind of references here. One from Addis Ababa, a African country, which has displayed, which this research paper displayed that in Addis Ababa, in the capital city, the transmission was 2 to 5% prevalence. Disease was 2 to 5%. Disease prevalence was 2 to 5%, whereas in a rural location it was 0.2%. So what happens? I'm making some point about socioeconomic inequalities. So increased exposure is commonplace in people of lower socioeconomic status. Inability, they are unable to perform hand hygiene and social distancing. They are constrained by the space, and most of these people, they do public facing job, either a conductor or a bus driver or a nurse or a chowkidar. They come into contact with people more often than you and I. The doctor, I would be doing my duty in a very controlled situation, maybe, even though, yeah, doctor is a public facing job as well, but doctors would be much more kind of privileged than a nurse and a ward boy, and they usually work for long hours. Then what happens? So their exposure is far greater than a privileged person. Then increased transmission, household crowding, multi-generational household, inability to self-isolate. Even if I am detected, how on earth I can self-isolate in a two-room household? Impossible. Living in areas of highest population density. So increased transmission within this group. And their susceptibility is more as well, because they got other conditions, diabetes, heart diseases, chronic stress. They may be, even some of them may be malnourished as well. And their vulnerability is more. They got pre-existing health conditions. So there are multiple reasons why this disease, not this disease, any respiratory disease, they cause havoc within the lower socioeconomic group of our society. now I am coming to observations. So this is on your left, you are seeing the cumulative cases of the cases in England, in the United Kingdom. And you can clearly see that there are clusters. Cases are concentrated in certain areas. And you can understand without me telling that those areas are actually the urban areas. For example, you can see London here. Now this is on your right is I think it is the situation from 2 days back. This is the area where my hospital, this is the area where I live in Newcastle. The very high number of transmissions going on at the moment. And this is the area where I work. My hospital is in an area where transmission of late has been quite high. Much higher than what we are having in India, caused by Delta mutant. But why I am smiling, why I am not terrified, why I am kind of not refusing this talk, oh my goodness, I am, we got corona, my goodness, no, how can I do talk, I have to do this thing, that thing, I cannot go anywhere. Why I am not panicking? There may be transmissions, but it is not converting into hospital admission. It is not converting into disease. Only because we are looking for it, that's why we are finding it. So next time round, when we are confident that yes, transmission may occur, but it doesn't lead to hospital admission, do you think as a policymaker I should be funding an effort that do PCR tests, do lateral flow on everybody who kind of think, oh, I might have corona? Is that a prudent utilization of money? But right now, we think it is a good use because we are all terrified. We are terrified of a single case, whether it is causing disease or not. So there is a fundamental difference between infection and disease. Many infection doesn't cause the disease. You get a very mild symptoms, or sometimes you don't get any symptoms. So that is called infection. But when you got symptoms, cough, cold, fever, or even more severe, then we call it disease. So we need to make the distinction between the disease and the infection. Okay, this is how it is an analogy like the ink in a drop of glass of water. Ink drop. This is a fire, wildfire. Wildfire may spread like this, like a front. There is a front, and all these dry grasses are there. All the flammable material. So if this fire would run its course, it would not subside until it kind of get rid of all the dry grasses in its vicinity. The fire is the virus, you can think like. But this is one picture. It doesn't happen. It is more like this. This is clusters. So there is a ember. Ember is we call in Assamese peringoti. The sparks probably comes, jumps out and gets seeded in another, dry area, and new fire kind of, starts. The front doesn't kind of come forward, but it kind of gets spreads from in clusters. So this is satellite pictures. You can see, wildfire. They are in clusters. So corona is more like the analogy would be more like this. This is a research paper, and it has tried to simulate certain hypothetical situations, and it has taken into considerations the coronaviruses, this nature of causing cluster-based infection, a main cluster, then satellite clusters. This is the tendency of this organism because of its own characteristics or society's characteristics, how the society is organized. It is called heterogeneity. Society is heterogeneous. It is not like a molecule of gases inside a balloon. Inside a balloon, every molecule of gas is similar, identical to the other molecule. They are equally distributed, they are randomly moving, but we human beings are not like that. In society, our behaviors are different. I can protect myself. I am a microbiologist. I know how corona spread. Yeah, so I can protect even within amongst a group of infected people. You know, likewise, certain behaviors allow some people to protect themselves. Like I just explained, the poor people, they cannot help. Whereas the rich one, the privileged one, we got mechanism in our disposal. The society is highly heterogeneous. You know, when I keep saying that rich people do not get corona, again, I have to make you remember the Birbal's, you know, analogy. It's not absolute. Prince Charles got corona. You know, big people may get it as well, but those are rather the exception. But we think they are the rule. They are those are the people. You know, we conjure up a picture. Oh my goodness, the Prime Minister of England is infected. This big star, Hollywood star, is infected. Who am I? It must be a dreadful disease. You know, this distort our reality. That is one Hollywood star. That is one Prime Minister. If I am to look closely, I would see people like him. Very few people like him are getting infected. On the other hand, a black community in London, they are getting, you know, the community is devastated perhaps. You know, these are called proportion, you know, thinking in proportional way, you know, not getting fixated on one news and generalizing that news to you know, to every other situation. So there are they have simulated 4 situations, and you can see the green one is the overall graph, overall epidemic curve, but you can see there are 2 other curves within it. We do not see that. When we see the total number, we do not see the other clusters within it. But these other 2 clusters, one is the isolated cluster. This is the blue one is the main cluster which started the epidemic, and sorry, the blue one is the urban cluster, and this red line representing a satellite cluster maybe in a nursing home, in a old people residential home, maybe in a block of flat, you know, maybe in a small in a slum area. But we do not see that. And what they are saying, that if we don't do anything, the curve would be like this, like the one I showed you previously. It would go up. It has shown here 2 peaks, but it comes down. It gets done and dusted within a certain time frame. But if I do partial reopening after locking down, then curve get extended, slightly extended, duration get extended. And if I do full reopening after at day 225, you can see the curve is flattened. The agony is being prolonged, but peak is lower. Yeah. Then if I do the reopening at 365 days, then curve is even lower. It is even getting distributed, you know, but for a long period of time. And if you look at this in panel E, these are the mortality numbers in 4 different occasions. And there is not a big difference in mortality either, you know, when you do the total count. So essentially, the conclusion of this paper is that complex dynamic patterns of SARS coronavirus 2 infection in simulations, these are simulations, not real life, in a heterogeneous society. Every society is heterogeneous. When infection in isolated clusters are ignited by an urban cluster. So that is, it is a new model. So they learn from experience. They learned from observations over the last 1 year. So this paper is kind of making sense to me. So I kind of therefore thought that it might be interesting to show you. So this heterogeneity of the society is a very big thing. You know, it is not like a like I given the analogy within a balloon. We are not like gas molecule within a balloon. We are human being. We are highly heterogeneous. We are organized in groups. So one group may be totally remain free from corona, whereas other group may get infected. You know, that is called heterogeneity. So you know, these are mathematically, these are, if you are a computational guy, if you are into doing mathematical modeling, I mean, you can make very complex model. You know, I'm not mathematician. I can only barely understand the basic concept. So what I understood, that society is highly heterogeneous. Infection doesn't spread like a drop of ink in a glass of water. At the same time, the interplay of the urban cluster and the isolated clusters generated a variety of specific patterns in virus speed dynamics. So we see the varieties of different patterns. I will show you some of the patterns. But what is interesting, this first bullet point, as the lockdown period increased, the magnitude of the infection decreased, but its duration increased. So you need to understand that. Okay, what is in the name? A rose is a rose, isn't it? So a coronavirus infection is a coronavirus infection. It should be like that. Except that a coronavirus case is, there is no universal definition of a coronavirus case. Even within the country, there may not be a uniform definition, and it is highly unsatisfactory condition. For everything else in human history, the epidemiologists defined a case in a very specific terms. But in terms of coronavirus, we cannot say, oh, rose is a rose, corona is a corona. Because a corona in United Kingdom may not be anything like a corona in India. Yeah, in India, in your particular center where you got tested with a lateral flow device, a very faint line, you know, may be enough to give you the status of a corona case. But in an experienced hand, that faint line would be discarded. That, oh, no, this is artifact. This is not proper. I need to, I need to test you tomorrow. Yeah, no hurry. In a normal time, I need to really make sure that you do really got this infection or not. There is a line showing, it is so faint. Your symptoms are not suggestive of. So I am, as a doctor, I am not ready to call you a corona case. But that is not what is happening at the moment. If a machine, if a laboratory, if a laboratory is telling you that you got corona, then you got corona. That's it. It is not a doctor's diagnosis. I think initially people did try to define, but now for all practical purpose, if you get a positive result, you are a case of corona. Matter settled. But that is not really the thing. Those, I mean, in this paper, it is a very reputed, paper, group where from I took this slide. You have to give me a moment. I got a case call from the hospital. It gone off, but it would come back.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Yeah, let me take this call.
Sure, sir.
Hello. Hi, this is Dr. Sharma. How can I help you? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Okay, which is positive. Okay, yeah. What are the sensitivity you have got? Oh, it's a contaminant. It's a contaminant. It's a contaminant. So you just switch to yeah. Yeah. So essentially, yeah. So essentially, no positive cultures. So you simply switch him to like you normally do. There is no positive microbiology. So you simply switch him to anything oral that you like to do, or even if you can stop antibiotic if you don't think it was an infection in the first place. So normal switch should be co-amoxiclav. Yeah. So essentially, the reason for you calling me, there is no reason for you to call me because he got no significant positive cultures. Yeah. So now you have to decide. Sorry. Okay. Now, rising CRP is not the cause. We do not have, you can do a procalcitonin. But for the time being, continue with tazocin then, if you are concerned. Do a procalcitonin. If procalcitonin is high, then come back to me, but otherwise continue with tazocin for the time being. Yeah, do a PCT. Yeah. Okay, I will be hurrying you up because I am I am in a webinar. So, Dr. Sarma, SARMA. Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Bye. So I'm going to show you some epidemic curves now. So this is just a beginning of some real life figures. Look at this. There are 6 countries represented here. From March 1st of March 2020 until now, and you have got no doubt in your mind that India has defeated everybody, isn't it? This is the India. Can you see this line? Sujay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So India defeated everybody. Yeah, no question. That is what you and I know. But these are the absolute numbers, and absolute numbers mean nothing. I can now make India, like having as if India got no problem whatsoever. Look at this figure. This is now per 1,000 population. Now look, who is the worst player here? United Kingdom. The blue line. Where is India? I can't even see India. India is here. The India line is here. We can see a surge here, that maroon line. But right down, come to the bottom. Is there any problem in India? This is India. Right now, this is India. This maroon dot, and this is United Kingdom. Yeah. So
yes.
In the United Kingdoms, the cases are 35 times higher than what we are getting in India. Yeah. So I made the line shorter. I am a Birbal today. Am I not?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is called perspective. So what does the absolute number mean? Yeah. If I don't give a denominator if I say my daughter got 49 in her mathematics paper today, out of the audience, 50% would think, oh, 49 must be out of 50. Such a brilliant girl. But another 50% would think, oh, what this guy is boasting about? 49 out of 100? What is that? Yeah? So without denominator, a number means nothing. So this is what it is. Only thing I do not understand about this particular epidemic, I do understand, I'll come to that point, but first let me make this point. This is what it is. The epidemic is not doing anything in India. Am I wrong to make that point? Yeah, things are not absolute. I agreed. I already conceded that when I say epidemic is not doing anything in India, I am not meaning that there is no cases, there are no people dying in India. I am only making this statement in comparison to the United Kingdom. If I look at the United Kingdom, I have to say, what is the fuss about corona in India? Suppose I am coming from another planet. Yeah? Am I wrong? Okay. Now come to this. What I am showing here, it is a death, number of people dying. So again, India is, we are decimated, isn't it? 2 months back, what CNN and BBC were saying, that India was going to be eradicated of its population. And if you look at this graph, you would believe that. Yeah? Okay. The moment I put per 1,000, where is the issue? The issue is in this country, this red one. What is this one? This is the United States. Yeah. Brazil is one of the worst performing as well. I will come while Brazil is suffering. You see, this is perspective. Okay. Look at this. Remember first wave. April time, May time last year. As if there was nothing worse than corona. Yeah?
Yeah.
So many cases, my goodness. Case number gone up to 100,000. Yeah? Now look at this time. This has gone 4 times higher than the last year's peak. Yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
And you see, this second wave is different to the first wave. The first wave got prolonged because we were intervening. And this time, whatever you say, night curfew after 4 p.m., after 11 p.m., those are not making any impact on corona. Corona is running its own course. The proof is in the pudding, taste is in the pudding, isn't it? I only have to look at the curve. This is a curve that tells me that the corona is getting a free hand. There is no intervention. If there was an intervention, we would have seen a different shape of the curve. And look at these different states. It's gone up and down. This is the second wave picture all over India, and these are different states. This is Assam. Assam's numbers are not yet down. It is flagging like 2,000 per day. But I will come to that. Why these numbers are anomalous. But by and large, what we can see, the epidemic is like a classical epidemic. The curve is of a classical epidemic curve. Gone up, reached its peak, and it has equally rapidly it has come down. Who can argue with me that any intervention has done anything? This curve would have flattened. This is New Delhi. This one is New Delhi. If whatever they were doing made any difference, this curve would have got flattened. It would have got prolonged. Even today, the peak would have been much lower, but even today, there would have been thousands and thousands of cases. But everything is done and dusted in New Delhi. Everything is done and dusted. I haven't put the country, but I think this is Gujarat. I think this is I think West Bengal. And this is Tamil Nadu. There is few problems still going on. And this is Mumbai. Yeah. And I would like to show you this screen. This would make you like, let me put up another screen for you. Can you see this screen? The India map of India?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's visible.
Yeah. So these are cumulative number. Let me expand it. You see, I do not speak without evidence. I said that corona is happening in urban centers. And this is Maharashtra, is not it?
Yes, sir.
This is Nasik. This is called Thane. This is Mumbai, proper Mumbai. And this is Pune. So these this is Aurangabad. So these 4 or 5 places account for 90% of the cases. Do you believe me now that when I call that this is an urban phenomenon? I'm not telling that there is no cases in remote place like Kangur here, but I am telling you that I can account for 90% of the cases from big urban locations. Nasik, Thane, Mumbai, and Pune. So this is what is called proportionality. This is what is called relativity. This is what is called, Birbal's line. So you can minutely examine every single area, and you would see where the cases are coming from. I have simply given the example of Maharashtra. Gujarat, look at. This is Ahmedabad. The other dots are very tiny. This one is this is Rajkot. Is Rajkot a village or a city? Jamnagar. I never visited Gujarat, but I do know Jamnagar is a city. Yeah. Rajkot is a city.
Yes.
And Ahmedabad is the capital city. And where are the other dots? So probably 3 places account for all the cases, 95% of the cases in Gujarat. But if you make the map like this, then this is like a drop of ink in a glass of water, isn't it? Whole India is colored orange. But once you do a bit of an examination, you can see, look at in South India. This is Bangalore, where the majority of the cases are. Yeah. So this is what I meant by, there's the corona is clustering in urban areas. Okay, let me go back to the slide. Has the slide came back now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is the second wave, done and dusted. Okay, look at this one. Again, this is a league table. Everything is in kind of, you can filter that countries in terms of whatever you want to. So these countries are at the moment filtered by number of cases. That is the absolute number. Yeah. So this is the you can see rightly India is in second position, USA in the first position, Brazil is in third position. But does it matter? Who cares how many cases are there? All I care how many people are dying, or how many cases per 100,000, or I care the percentage. So look at the percentage on this column. Where is India's column? This is the point I was making all the time. Would you suppose this is maternal mortality figure? This is a table of maternal mortality. What you would call, oh my goodness, you in the USA, all your new moms are dying. What you are doing? And look at us at India. Look at us in India. None of our moms are dying. Would that be a wrong statement looking at this table? Tell me, Sujoy. Hello?
Hi, sir. Yes, sir. You're right.
Yeah. Yes.
My one was a little.
Mic was mute. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is what it is. This is called perspective.
Yes,
You
sir.
can look at things from this perspective, number of cases, then India is the worst, second worst. But if I look at from the perspective of per 1,000,
Of course.
India's position goes down to 100, 110 even.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right,
So
sir.
look at this one. By per million, India's, this is cumulative. So that's why it is 2 years worth of cases, isn't it? So look at India's color and look at America's color, look at Europe's color. This is the northern hemisphere, whole of North America, whole of Europe. And look at this country in the tropics, whole of North Africa. Yeah. Are they not spared? Even less problem than India. But these countries in South America are also in the tropics. Why they are suffering so miserably then? We have to explain that. It's a job of the epidemiologist, job of the scientist to explain. None of the countries in Africa, problem is real. The problems are blown up by the media. If you look at the graph and figures, and if you compare with worst performing and the well-performing countries, then you would make a statement, oh my goodness, so lucky that Africa is. Would you not say that? African color is like Australia's color. You and I all know that Australia got no problem. And look at some of the color in African countries in matching the Australia's color.
It's true.
Look at this, death per million. The situation become even more brighter. Look at this color and look at India's color. And look at whole of Africa's color. There are certain exceptions. Exceptions always establishes the rule actually. And look at South America. South America is a special case, and I can explain that, but I will come to that. Okay, I have, for sake of simplicity, I have put just two countries side by side because I live in United Kingdom and I'm an Indian. So let us compare these two countries. These are cases per million. Look at when first wave struck us, we were terrified. The kind of lockdown we were under, Even today, we are under some kind of lockdown. And this second wave, it has gone 12 times higher. So compare the first wave and the second wave. But people were much more relaxed during the second wave. There were less hospitalization, less people were suffering. Yeah. And in India, when cases started going up, I actually made quite a few articles and have been regularly updating my Facebook page. I have been predicting certain things based on fundamental, and so far I have been proven right. I was telling people, then don't be surprised, don't get agonized, cases going up to 400,000, because in England it got 12 times higher. So in India, you can only expect that the cases would go high, much more higher than the first wave. And that exactly happened, but it didn't go 12 times because of India's society structure or India's location, because we are in the tropics. I'm coming to those few finer points. But the point I am making, and today, United Kingdom got 30 times more cases than India. But India, we are terrified. We are being told that some kind of wave is coming, and this wave is going to decimate our children. On what basis they are making this kind of predictions? In the United Kingdom, the Delta virus, which originated in India, they say, is causing this number of cases, but I haven't seen a single children dying of it. So we should not speak nonsense. When we make guesswork, when we give a prediction like a Jyotisi, we should tell that here I am giving this prediction because I have examined India's horoscope. I cannot make a prediction today. The third wave is coming anytime soon, and third wave will catch all the young people, all the kids. These people who are making this kind of prediction. I don't know what to tell them. Look this is the Delta virus in the United Kingdom. Cases are 30 times, 40 times higher than in India. And this is again two countries compared, and this is the mortality. One thing I cannot explain, why during second wave, England's mortality remained low, but India's mortality went up. Yeah.
Right.
Look this is it is slightly difficult to understand. This is if cases went up, how many times? I say 12 times. Okay. But mortality went up not even 2 times. This is the mortality during the first time round. This is the peak. And this is during second wave, the mortality. Not even 2 times, is it?
Yes.
But look, number of cases gone up 12 times. So mortality should have gone up 12 times as well. Okay, we are managing well. We got now few treatment. Still mortality should have been at least 2 times. Because we didn't get any magic bullet for corona. Yes, we got a bit more organized in terms of managing cases. We got less panic. Doctor become a bit bolder. We are not trying to protect ourselves, but to treat patient. Unlike the first time round, we are managing well. So we are making more people survive. Understandable. But why still it hasn't got 12 times higher? Whereas cases went 12 times higher. It didn't even go 2 times higher. And now, look at this figure. Of late, the cases are skyrocketing in United Kingdom. But where is the mortality? Look at this. The extreme. No mortality. But why then in India, compared to first time round, our mortality went up 4 times? You tell me. If you say, this time we got a mutant virus, Delta virus, Gamma virus, absolute rubbish, isn't it? Because it is the same virus in the United Kingdom. Why? I got my explanation, but I leave you to think about it. Okay, this is the timeline of lockdown in the United Kingdom. You can imagine, I last visited India October. I got a moment of opportunity to visit in October because it was nationwide lockdown was kind of a bit relaxed, but we were under severe lockdown during the initial, during the first wave. There was not a single car to be seen in the street. We were not traveling. We were given what to say, a order, stay at home. Then gradually stay at home was relaxed. People were allowed to come out, but not allowed to assemble in the public. There was a restriction of 6. Not more than 6 people can assemble. And in country like United Kingdom, when rule is given, rule is obeyed by the people. So how stringent it was. No 2 households were allowed to mix. I cannot go to my neighbor's house, Gradually it were relaxed. 2 households were allowed. There were very stringent rules how 2 households can meet and so on. So we are under kind of restriction even now in terms of household mixing. Only now things are probably from 19th of July, all restriction would be lifted. Cases are going up, but restriction is being lifted. You see, people are coming to senses. The United Kingdom was the one to start the panic button to go to that extreme lockdown. They got it wrong, my personal opinion. And now they are getting rid of it. Case numbers are skyrocketing, 30 times more than what is in India. But from 19th July, we don't have to wear mask. There is no restriction. All nightclub would be open. All restaurant would be open. Everything like as before. So they are coming to senses. So I hope everybody come to senses. They are saying that why we are doing this, because we have vaccinated the vulnerable population. So now if the disease happens in younger lot, they are not suffering, it's just an infection, it's not disease. So fair enough. The life has to come back to normal because society has to run. So this is a sensible thing. But look at this timeline. My mental health gone actually bad. I am not a sane person. I got a little bit mad, anybody would go mad. Some people more, some people less, but we all gone a bit mad. Okay, I'm coming to this another point now. I made 2 points. Corona is a indoor phenomenon. Corona is an outdoor phenomenon. Corona is clustered around the urban centers. So we made those points. Now I am making the point that corona is a disease of the northern hemisphere. There is something called corona belt. And these tropics, which is a line of Capricorn and line of, what is the line of this called? This is a line of Capricorn, this is a line of Cancer. In between this area is called tropics. And you see, this is the Brazil. Brazil is right within the tropics. India, vast majority of India is in the subtropical and tropical region. Whole of Africa, yeah. Okay, so this is how season changes. This is the summertime in northern hemisphere. Though the whole Earth is kind of northern hemisphere is closer to the sun. This is summertime. Sunlight falls direct. So in summer, cases goes down in northern hemisphere as well. But in winter time, it is a dreadful time and you can, if you are interested in a little bit of geography, then obviously you would know. These things are interesting because the seasonality is something we try to understand in relation to respiratory viral infection. Your influenza is a seasonal disease in the countries of the northern hemisphere in the winter, and in southern hemisphere during their winter. Right now, southern hemisphere countries, this is the position right now of Earth, more or less it is coming to this position. And southern hemisphere countries are having winter now. So they should be having influenza cases now. But this time influenza is less, that's a different matter. But usually respiratory viruses are more problematic during winter, in respective winters in northern and southern hemisphere. But tropics, what happens in tropics? The seasonality of influenza is not pronounced within tropics. In tropics, we get influenza cases all year round, but during the winter time, influenza cases surges, it goes up. And I think in tropics, there are some microclimate as well, where respiratory diseases kind of takes upper hand. Especially the Pune area, we know influenza H1N1 causes much more problem in Pune, whereas in the same latitude, in Northeast India, H1N1 was not a big problem. Microclimate, density, people's behavior, there are a lot of local factors play its role. So, 16th of January, when vaccine program was rolled in India, there was a TV program, Wasbir Hussain conducted a TV program. I was invited, and I was so optimistic that India has launched the vaccine program right at the right time. So if within the next 2-3 months, India manages to vaccinate its vulnerable population, then probably our second wave, which was imminent, because from seasonality, we knew by beginning of actually during the first wave round, we saw the seasonal pattern of this coronavirus. So that the cases in India would rise coinciding with its monsoon was predictable. I made this prediction, but I thought it would be a little late. It come a little bit earlier than my prediction, but again, I don't know geography. I don't know, but my prediction was in line that second wave was coming. But India launched this vaccination program, or at least India got 3 months in hand. So hopefully situation will be better managed. But that didn't happen. That didn't happen. But I did make the prediction, and I didn't see any of the guys who are making prediction of the third wave and that our children would die this time, making this prediction in January. None of these guys. These are big guys. Okay, this is the paper, came out quite early actually, and now there are a lot of papers that came out, and what they are making, what they are observing, most cases were recorded in cities and areas stretched along a narrow east-west corridor lying 30 degree to 50 degree north, and include regions such as northern Italy, Pacific Northwest, US, Japan, Iran, South Korea, France, Spain, and Germany. Risk for significant community transmission in this paper, they observed, and they came to the kind of a conclusion, is between 5 to 11 degrees centigrade. There is a role of temperature and humidity. And this is the area, tropical area, ultraviolet rays, and there are many other, weather-related factors. Those are thought to be, going against the coronavirus. So that doesn't mean that we would be absolutely protected, but we are being helped. If we were not helped by our weather, the situation would have been so worse, much more worse than what we have seen in Italy, Canada, or in USA or in European countries. Look, even with this number of cases, Delhi collapsed in terms of healthcare. If we were not helped by our, whatever we were helped by, what the situation would have been like. I made this point last year in the very beginning, that we are fortunate. But fortunate is not an absolute term. It doesn't mean that there would not be a single case. And this was observed in the very early on. Death rates in northern hemisphere, it's called R square, some kind of statistical formula, 0.30, and globally 0.20. Such a big difference, death rates and case rates. So COVID-19 is less prevalent in countries closer to the equator, where heat and humidity tend to be higher. So how to interpret this observation? It is not as simple. There are many confounding factors. So when a researcher writes a papers and come to a conclusion, he has to consider many things. You cannot be very, very sure. There may be many other confounding factors are like other factors, playing role, but we are kind of not detecting those, not taking into account those factors. So everything, the researcher being careful here, he is not putting everything down to the position. He is being careful that there are many other confounding factors, but still let us make this conclusion with some caution. So what he has come up with, the group came up with, 1 degree increase in absolute latitude is associated with a 4.3% increase in cases per million as on January 9, 2021. So this is quite late, latest figure. So the paper predicted a country these are scientific prediction. Now we can verify this prediction. This is called scientific prediction. Not that, if you don't wear mask, corona would come, all your children would die. That is not scientific prediction, because you are putting a caveat. If you don't wear mask, as if wearing mask is hanging the mask by your ear is going to prevent corona. I already demonstrated that wearing mask, wearing whatever, is not making any difference during the second wave. The corona has run its nice epidemic curve. Nothing has prevented corona. So people were not doing anything that is preventing corona. Then how come you now make a prediction? If you make some symbolic hand washing, if you make some symbolic face mask wearing, if you make some symbolic curfew after 5 p.m., as if no wave would come. And if you don't do that, the big wave is coming and your children would be killed. That is not a scientific prediction. But this is a scientific prediction, because I can verify and I can prove this prediction right or wrong. That is what science is. Scientific hypothesis, a scientific theory make bold prediction. Then that prediction would be either validated or proven wrong by subsequent observation. If it is validated, then this theory become a concrete theory. And if it is invalidated, then we have to find another explanation for the phenomenon. So this is making a prediction. A country located 1,000 kilometers closer to the equator could expect 33% fewer cases per million inhabitants. It's a bold prediction. And another prediction, a difference in cases per million of 64% between two hypothetical countries whose climate differs to a similar extent as two adjacent seasons. Yeah. So let me tell you. Suppose I am in, consider countries in northern and southern hemisphere. There is a whole season difference. If it is summer in the United Kingdom, it is winter in the Australia. But it is not talking about winter and summer and winter, because there is a season in between. There is autumn in between. So if two countries are such located, then one country we are enjoying summer, the another country we are enjoying autumn. So if two countries got that kind of weather difference, then because of its location within the earth, within the latitude longitude terms, then you would see a 64% difference in cases. If you are closer to the within the equator range, you would be suffering less cases. So these are both scientific predictions. So coronavirus belt, again, I'm making more points. So few things are there. Why? One thing is ultraviolet radiation. Then there are few points, because you have to explain things as well. So ultraviolet radiation is one of the points. Countries are expected to see a decline in new COVID-19 cases during summer, which is this prediction has already been verified. Does not imply that the disease will vanish during summer or will not affect countries close to the equator. These are not absolute things. The researcher is qualifying, that these are not absolute. We are talking about in relative terms. Rather, the higher temperature and more intense UV radiation in summer are likely to support public health measures to contain corona. So if we go one step, weather is helping us with two steps. That is the kind of argument. If we be a little bit careful, we are already getting advantage from the weather. It's not, the paper is not telling you, oh, give up everything, enjoy your life. Let us be careful, but not fearful. So seasonal influence, it was recognized in this is a doctor, he was a general practitioner, Robert Hope Simpson. he actually made this observation that influenza was seasonal. And why influenza was seasonal? I think many things can be said about it. Because first of all, as I told you, that there may be some advantages in terms of temperature and so on that a virus gets in winter, but people's behavior is a key factor as well. During winter, people are mostly indoor. And we have already made this point that indoor is a perfect place for corona, for any respiratory virus to spread, congested indoor space. By the springtime, people go out and about, and respiratory diseases decline. And what we are doing this time, we are making people locked up. You know, that was a wrong policy in these countries, and this is a wrong policy everywhere who are doing this. Okay, so let me make this another case. This is very interesting. Why we see cases in clusters. You know, during the first wave in Italy, these two regions, Lombardy and Veneto, these are two very wealthy regions within the Italy, very wealthy regions. And there is a place within Lombardy which is called Codogno. You know, Codogno in Lodi. In Lodi is another area within Lombardy. Lombardy is the region. And another town called, this is very difficult to pronounce, Vo Eugenio Pavoda in Veneto region. So essentially two towns into these locations. And what happened? The epidemic got ignited in these two locations from two index cases, but there was no relationship between these two index cases. Totally different. No relationship, no epidemiological connection, no travel connection. And in Lombardy, as you heard the name Lombardy perhaps, the epidemic broke like anything. Many people died. And in Veneto, the epidemic, for whatever reason, didn't get the momentum. But the main point is that how come in two locations, the epidemic started at the same time? You know, there's no connection that the other guy came to other guy's house, then he traveled back by air, and he started the epidemic in that own region. It was not like that. They were not connected. So this is a term, specific term. Let me introduce the term to you. This is called synchronous. Synchronous is taking place at the same time, but this is the term I was after, autochthonous, that is with no apparent link. Yeah, so this is very interesting. So therefore, the theory is that the seasonality theory is coming into play now. What is the speculation? What is the theory? That cases are already in their respective places dormant. Yeah, they are already lying dormant there much before, unrecognized. The moment situation become congenial, it got ignited. Yeah, that is the explanation. We don't know whether this is true or wrong, but this is what the explanation is at the moment. Because the situation start changing, and whatever the seasonal advantages a virus is supposed to get, at that time, the cases which are already there lying dormant in a very subclinical level, they are probably transmitting, but they got now ignited, got advantage, so the epidemic starts. 1 become 2, 2 become 4, 4 become 16, like that. And that was very prominent in Lombardy, but not in Veneto. We do not know why not in Veneto. But the point here is that cases already lie dormant, and when situation become advantageous, in whatever terms, then a virus can get ignited. Because every winter we get influenza cases everywhere. It is not that it is starting from day one person transmitting the other transmitting the other. It is not like that. It gets started at the same time everywhere in Northern Hemisphere in the winter, in Australia in their winter. So this is what we need to understand. So that can explain multiple multiple clusters kind of getting ignited at the same time. Now, let me come to a very important aspect, a very important perspective, and you would be puzzled. This would be an eye-opener to many of you. When a medical test gets marketing license, they need to produce evidence that this test is a proper test, it is an accurate test. And that accuracy has to be proven on two fronts. One is in the laboratory, that is called analytical accuracy, which has been proven for all the corona cases, all the corona tests. But at the same time, they have to demonstrate their real life accuracy as well, because laboratory ideal situation, performing a test on a artificial samples in a very ideal condition is totally different to a real life situation. So normally a company has to produce evidence both within the laboratory and in a real life study as well. But in corona was an urgent public health situation. All the tests were given emergency authorization. These are not permanent authorization. These are emergency authorization. Those were given on the basis of simple laboratory analytical accuracy. So how a corona test performs in real life, we don't know. Even as on today, when people are looking into it, people are researching, but not the authorities. They don't even care, even as on today. But scientists, the epidemiologists, people are looking into real life accuracy of corona test. And you'll be surprised that real life accuracy is much more worse than the analytical accuracy that we have been given in the product literature. Because there is a more fundamental point. First, you remember that light, nothing can move more than the speed of light. That is the fundamental rule of nature. So equally, there is a rule in medical science that no test can be 100% sensitive and specific at the same time. So no test can be 100% accurate. So you keep that. It's a rule of, it is like an Einstein rule, in medical science. No test can be. What I am demonstrating here in the left-hand panel is a lateral flow test. We call it RAP test, don't we? Rapid antigen test. And this is performed on a lady from Soigaon area, a rural area, a 25-year-old lady who happened to come to Guwahati Medical College just because she was in labor. So she was subjected to this test. And I don't know whether you can see, these are control lines. You can see very clearly the pink control line.
Yes, yeah? It's visible.
Yeah.
It's visible.
The test line here, you can probably make out a faint line here. Yeah.
Yes.
Then everybody got excited. She has been then tested twice. And I cannot see any line whatsoever in these two subsequent tests. Test is working fine because control lines are appearing. So I am a qualified doctor. So if I am to treat this person, forget about epidemiology, public health problem. It's a normal time. She is coming to me. I'm a gynecologist. I will dismiss this test. I will throw this test away. Oh, it's a negative test. No, you don't have corona. Let us concentrate on your baby. Let us get, that is more important. Ordinary time would have been like that. But now she got labeled as corona positive. She is counted in the statistics as well. So all that number you see, that number comprises of false positive, false negative, everything. Okay. So then her story is, I don't want to elaborate. I mean, she got put in a COVID ward, care got compromised. Baby was delivered, baby caught neonatal infection. Then they decided to take the patient out to a private nursing home. And altogether, I think this guy spent about 3 lakhs rupees, just for nothing. So what I'm telling you here, there's any laboratory test need to pass this to standard. I am putting abbreviation. You don't need to be too worried about what this stands for. But basically, they have to pass real life scrutiny. But but none of the COVID test has passed any real life scrutiny. Yeah, okay. So I already told you, no test can be 100% accurate. Now you can imagine that this COVID test is far less than ideal. You know, this is the RAT test, but I'm talking about the PCR test now. You know, RAT test is even less accurate than PCR. You know, even PCR is you have to take a result with pinch of salt. Given the situation, there are situations when I will take the result with a pinch of salt, and when I will take absolute confidence in the result. There are situation changes. Yeah, I'm coming to that. So on top of that, there are two fundamental points we need to ask ourselves. Do the people who are tested have better outcome than who are not tested? So if I don't do any COVID test, would more people die? We don't know that. We can't answer that test. We haven't done an experiment. But to me, performing COVID test doesn't make any difference. We have seen in the UK, there is no correlation with doing number of tests and outcome. There is no link. Yeah, if we did more tests, did that help us? Because I do not see any correlation in the world, a country doing more tests and being able to control it, being able to save more life, and a poor country not being able to do anything, and they are suddenly having more death and more infection. So what is the purpose of the test? It is to improve clinical outcome and also to prevent transmission, because we are employing the test from a public health perspective. So on these two count, to me, the corona test has miserably failed. But jury is out there. You know, let us see. We'll see 2 years, 3 years down the line whether corona test has made any difference. It has contributed in any way in terms of controlling the outbreak. This question would be asked. We cannot escape. This question would be asked. So we basically want improved outcome if test is so helpful, or we want that prevention is somehow controlled. So a test to expect to get licensed need to demonstrate utility on this both count. If it is marketed only for clinical purpose, then it has to demonstrate that if you do this test, then your patient's outcome would be better compared to not doing the test, because you would not know what to prescribe or whatever. Yeah, but for a self-limiting disease, doing a test or not doesn't matter. For a disease that has got no specific treatment, doing a test, does it help? Because I would treat the same anyway. As a doctor, I would treat a particular case of respiratory infection anyway in a certain way. Getting a test result, is a corona positive or influenza positive, does it help me? It doesn't actually. To a large extent, it doesn't. My treatment would not change. I would give paracetamol, I would give supportive care. Yeah. Similarly, for a test that has been marketed for controlling an epidemic, they have to demonstrate that in this cluster we did the test, so the epidemic got controlled quicker than the other cluster where we didn't do any test. Let us see those proof. Okay, now look at this. I am not producing any of this. These are produced by knowledgeable people who knows what they are talking about. This is a test we are talking about. It is you can take the RT-PCR test for corona. RT-PCR test analytical sensitivity is 80% and analytical specificity is 99.9%. I am not going to explain specificity and sensitivity. Just understand that these are marker of accuracy of the test. Now, this is a particular day in the United Kingdom. On that particular day, they were performing 310,000 tests. And at that time, the disease prevalence, the infection prevalence rate in the community was 0.05%. I think it is August time last year. 0.05% is a very low number in terms of how many people got disease in the society. in my community, in my neighborhood, in my, 0.05% is a low number. This is a country-specific number. In particular hotspot, this number would be higher. Okay, but if we take the country-specific number, I mean, to be very precise, we should be taking the cluster-specific prevalence number. Even no clusters, the prevalence would be more than 1% or more than 0.5%. But here it is 0.05%, extremely low. So this is a real-life scenario. And on that day, every positive they got 434 positive tests on that particular day. And when you apply science, then you can then see 71.5% were false positive result. Yeah, the mathematics is there. Whoever interested, they can find out. It is not. These things are known for decades. We, as a doctor, we know this test. That a positive predictive value, the utility of a test, depends not only on its sensitivity and specificity, but the number of people having the disease in the community as well. A malaria test in Karbi Anglong district of Assam would perform very well. A person coming with fever, with shivering, and I as a doctor suspected malaria, and I have done the malaria blood test, not the microscopy, it is the blood test I am talking about, and the test come back as positive. I have no reason to disbelieve this test. Rather, if the test come back as negative, I would suspect the test that it is probably false negative. But if I do the same test in a shivering person with fever in New York or in London with no travel history, and I should not be doing a malaria test on him anyway, because this is not on my list of diagnosis. But if I did, and the test give a positive result, that is a false positive result. So when disease prevalence is low, we should be aware about the false positive test. And when disease prevalence is very high, then we would be aware of the false negative result. Yeah. So when epidemic is going on and I am a doctor in the ICU, a person is coming who is a known contact of a COVID case and coming in respiratory distress, if I get a negative test on him, I would suspect, oh, I cannot believe this test. He must be positive. Let us do a scan, let us do this thing. But I cannot believe this test. I would treat him as COVID anyway. Yeah. But if I test a lady from Soigaon village area, asymptomatic, nothing to do with corona, came to hospital just because he is in labor, and I do this bloody test, and it throws up a small line, or in case of PCR test, it is just positive at border of detection. We call limit of detection, meaning very low level positive. I should not believe that test, that positive result. These are signs. And now, who am I? So let me now speak, quote, from this UK Parliamentary Office of Science and Technology. Okay, because there would be many Indian doctors who would tell me who this bloody microbiologist is. He, what does he know? I don't know anything. Only thing I know, I can do literature search, I can question, yeah, I suspect things, and I try to look for answers. I try to explain things. So this Parliamentary Board, UK Science and Technology, UK Parliamentary Board, they are giving two scenarios in relation to corona. Let me read the first scenario. If a group of 10,000 patients were hospitalized with suspected COVID-19 symptoms in an outbreak area, the pre-test probability of infection would be quite high. Pre-test probability means, if just like what I described, somebody coming in from an outbreak area, a lot of cases going on, he is coming in with respiratory distress. For me, it is 100% COVID. I don't have to do any test. So that is called pretest probability. That is 100%. So in this example, they are saying the pretest probability is 90%, because there is always a probability it may be something else. But for corona, the pretest, before doing the test, I as a doctor thinks it is 90%. I am betting. Now I got a test, which is a very good test, 95% sensitive, 95% specific. And if I do this test, then what would happen? I would get 8,550 positive result and 450 negative result. And out of 450, but at the same time, I would get 950 false negative result. These are not infected people. Sorry, they are two true negative results. So this is right. 950 people, these are not infected people, and my test out of 1,000, 950 are coming out as not infected. Very good. But I am still getting 50 false positive result. 50 people out of 10,000 got no COVID. But this test would give me 50 false positive result anyway. Anyway, you cannot help this situation. Yeah. Similarly, out of infected people, I am getting 8,550 as true positive. Very good. I am missing only 950. Yeah. So in this scenario, this test is performing very well. So it is positive accuracy in terms of positive result is 99%, higher than 99%. So a positive result, I would believe that result with 99.4% confidence. Understand? Let me make it simple for you. The net verdict is that if I get a positive result, I would believe that 99%. But if I get a negative result, I would believe that result only up to 67%. You see, that is the variation. When pretest probability is very high, a positive result is more reliable than a negative result. Now the parliamentary board has reversed the scenario, and let me read this one. The same test would give significantly inaccurate result if the test was applied in an area where only 5 out of 100 people have COVID-19. So pretest probability is only 5%. So here it was 95%. Now pretest probability has come down to 5%. And now we do that test. What happens? It becomes a toss of a coin. The positive result, I can only believe 50%. Yeah. And a negative result, I can believe up to 99.7%. So if I get a negative result now, I am happy. I will rubber stamp it. Oh, you don't have COVID, go away, you know. But if I get a positive result, it is toss of a coin. Just like my lady, you know, that lady, pregnant lady, her result, that result was technically wrong, negative anyway. But even if that result was a good positive, I am still in a domain of tossing a coin. You see, things are not written in the stone. How many of you knew about this? And this is nothing. We are talking about a perfectly good test. No test can be 100%. The best you can go to is 95%. You know, if you want to make this one 99% sensitivity or specificity, you have to lose the other parameter. So if you want to increase the sensitivity of the test, you have to compromise with the specificity and the other way around. So therefore, the tests are, a test specificity and sensitivity are adjusted according to its purpose. If I am going to diagnose a disease in my chamber, in my hospital, I need a very specific test. But if I am doing it for public health purpose, I need a highly sensitive test because I don't want to miss any false negative. You know, because that false negative might transmit disease. But there is a price to be paid. In the public health scenario, you would label many negative cases as positive. He or she has to now go for quarantine, would be subjected to inconvenience. You know, the economic productivity, he has to remain at home. There are many prices to be paid. It is not a matter of joke, furti, you know. Test, test, and test. That is the slogan WHO got very badly wrong. Very badly wrong. A test should not be done in a indiscriminate manner, and moreover, a inaccurate test like this, and moreover, when there is no scrutiny, because no doctor is making judgment, not a laboratory doctor is making a judgment on the positive negative test. The machine is printing a report, positive negative, you know, and this is becoming like a concrete reality. Machine would label a test as positive even if it is positive at the limit of detection. By 0.1, it is already cut off. By simple 0.1, it would be like a positive test. You know that, and for us it become a reality. Oh, corona positive. You know, how dangerous. Corona become, even a dead piece of virus is on my nose, just because, you know, it was floating around, it just you know, fall into my nose, but my human non-specific defense is actually dealing with the virus. I'm not going to get the disease, not going to get the infection. But if I become a part of a swabbing exercise, I may get a swab taken and I may get a positive result. That positive result is not coming from a live virus. It is coming from a dead piece of RNA. It's not simple. Okay, and now look at the test we are doing. This is India. How much test we are doing. Our capacity gone up like anything. Look at England. They are even doing more than us. You know, oh, this is not the absolute number of the test. What I am showing here, it is the test per, oh no, this is absolute number per 1,000. Overall, what I am demonstrating here, I am demonstrating that we are doing huge number of tests. Even in India, during when corona was not an issue, our number of testing gone down. But look at this, it has gone right back up when situation, you know, during the second wave. Now look at the positivity rate. Oh, sorry, I'm confusing. No, this is both India. This is the number of tests we are doing, which is going up and up, and this is the number of positivity. You may have little bit difficulty in understanding. It is actually a test conducted to get one positive test. So India right now, India is conducting about 50 cases. If I do 50 case test, I would get one positive. So percentage positivity is 2%. And in the worst time of the second wave, our positive percentage gone up to 20%. Yeah, even 20%, you can rely a test on 20% positivity rate. False positive would be less. But the 2% positivity rate, I think probably 90% of the cases right now in India are false positive. 90% of the cases in India today are false positive. Because positivity percentage is 2%, only 2%. It's a very less prevalent. I mean, the test become very problematic if we are going to detect any positive person. To detect one positive person, we are making another 80% falsely positive. That is the price we are paying. And look at England. I mean, their percentage positivity is like even like lower in the range of decimal. So how many false positive cases England is getting today, I cannot imagine. Already I have demonstrated you the calculated example, you know, from August last year. This year, now we are getting 30 times, 40 times more cases compared to India, but majority of those cases are actually false positive. I know it from another way as well. You know, all the positive cases in my laboratory, we send it for sequencing. Sure. And many, about 50% of the report coming back as unable to sequence. Because there is no complete virus in the sample. These are the fragment, these are the contamination of viral RNA. So that is why reference lab were unable to sequence the full genome of the virus. I have to find out how many. I think probably about 50-60% of the reports coming back as unable to sequence. You see, and I'm talking about a hospital lab. Hospital lab, our positivity should be more reliable because we are dealing with patient. But a community laboratory who deals only with asymptomatic patient, I mean, I cannot imagine how many false positive they are manufacturing. And these are all going to come out. In England, people can submit freedom of information request. Only other day I have been asked by a freedom of information request that what is the cutoff of your PCR test? Very important question. If I am issuing a lot of positive result at the borderline level, you know, those are unreliable reports. So these are all these are part of scientific research, and we will know in 3-4 years time what stupidity we have done, you know, this time round. Okay, this is another example. There is a calculator actually in the web. You know, a doctor can easily find out how reliable is the test result. So this is the pretest probability. A doctor always know what is pretest probability. If today my mom get a bit of cough and go to my colleague, you know, a good doctor, he would say, oh, my probably he would call my ma as well. Oh, ma, don't worry. There is a possibility you might have COVID, but that is only 10%. 90%, I think you probably got bit of, you know, seasonal cough and cold, but maybe 10%, I don't know. You know, you may have COVID. 5%, okay. I think you got 5% chances of COVID. It is such a serious disease, let us do the test. Okay, he performed the test. And what is the accuracy of the test? 95% sensitive and 95% specific. Now my mom got a positive result. And the doctor, who is a knowledgeable one, he would discard that positive result. He would say that, mother, it is only 50% possible that you actually got the result. I do not believe this result. But if he get a negative result, he would believe, oh, mother, I am very happy. 90% you do not have COVID. You see, it is dicey. I have to exert my clinical knowledge here. I cannot rely on a test. But if my pretest probability was 90%, because my brother already got a known COVID disease, and my mother has been in contact with him in the same house. And now my mother got, shortness of breath, temperature, cough. Then my pretest probability is 90%. And if I put 90% in the calculator, it would tell me that if you get a positive result, I would believe that result absolutely. Rather, I would not believe if I get a negative result. You see, such are the things. Okay, now this is important. We have done with the science. Now let us do a bit of with the sociology. You heard about placebo effect. When I give you a medicine, I tell you, oh, this is very good medicine, you know, I brought from America. You know, there are a lot of simple people in our place. Every time I go, I am asked for this medicine, that medicine. If I give a medicine to a very simple person, that this medicine just got, marketed in the United Kingdom, you don't get it anywhere. I somehow got it for you. And if you take this drug, this particular disease would disappear. Actually, this is not a drug at all. It is just a sugar tablet. He would take it for 7 days. He would come back, obliged. Oh, Dada, what you have given me, it has done me a wonder. So that is placebo effect. Similarly, there is nocebo effect. If I give you equally something, a sugar tablet, but you think this is a harmful medicine, then you tell me, oh, Dada, what you have given me, I didn't want to take it because I already knew it is not a good medicine. My friend told me that, but you insisted. That is why I took it. And now see, I am getting headache all the time. So that is nocebo effect, because I am not giving him anything except a sugar tablet. So anxiety is a nocebo. Anxiety causes symptoms of COVID. It is well everywhere in the literature. Psychological stress of COVID-19 pandemic led some people to experience COVID-19 symptoms not actually related to infection. You know, people are studying this in more detail now. But this is, if I just told you, you would not believe me. So I have substantiated it with references. Okay, this is a paper which actually defined what coronaphobia is. It is excessive. It is an excessive triggered response of fear of contracting COVID-19, leading to excessive concern over physiological symptoms, increased reassurance and safety-seeking behaviors, and avoidance of public places and situations, causing marked impairment in daily life functioning. You see, this is coronaphobia. This is happening. The triggers involves, this is what it is. If I meet, suppose I met somebody, he is 2 meters away, but I am a coronaphobic man, and he just coughed. And I would start getting symptoms. Oh my goodness, he coughed, my goodness, what happened to me? You know, now I'm starting having, I'm not getting any smell. You know, it would start like that. And maybe I would start getting shortness of breath, and I will get a, what is that called? We put it in the finger, you know, oximeter. I will buy a Chinese manufactured oximeter, which is not clinically validated. I will put it in my finger. Oh, 98, you know, it is 88%. And that would be enough for me to go to hospital, get admitted if I had got money. And an unscrupulous hospital doctor would admit me. He would make me more fearful. And he would extract, he would make a bill of 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs. This is real. This is happening. I know in my, personal experience, because I have counseled my relatives and friends, over the last few months. I could have shown you picture of my relative, who were in a Delhi hospital. Nothing happened to him. But he stayed there for 4 weeks, spent 4 lakhs rupees. I actually put his photograph on one of my slides, then I took it away, because I didn't manage to speak to him, seek his permission. So I was tempted to put up that picture. The picture I received when I consulted with one of my friend, anesthetist friend here, he told me, he's my friend, my junior. He told me, Dada, this guy got 99% oxygen saturation. He should not be in hospital. Because anesthetists, they are so experienced, they can look at the face and know whether this person is suffering from any oxygen deficiency. This is clinical judgment. But he was kept in a big hospital, and probably people who genuinely needed hospital was denied a bed. You see, this is the mismanagement that has caused panic. 90% of the people who were in hospital for 3 weeks, the young guy in 30-40 brackets, none of them had any COVID. This is my challenge. This is my hypothesis. And it can be proven. They all need to simply do an antibody test. And I bet their antibody would come back as negative. Antibody negative means there is no evidence of infection, past infection. But who are in India? Who is doing this kind of studies? Who is doing? They are busy predicting 3rd wave, 4th wave, 5th wave. Yeah. So constant worry can cause symptoms such as palpitation, tremors, difficulty in breathing, dizziness, change in appetite and sleep. These are latest research. So this is the mechanism. Excessive concern about physiological symptoms, the physiological. First, you got the phobia. This is particular neurotic disposition. We all human beings are different. I am a neurotic to some extent. You are also. Some people are more, some people are less. But sometimes, bombardment of all the misinformation, all the news, maybe I am in a weak frame of mind. I may catch this coronaphobia. And that would give rise to physiological symptoms. This would give rise to cognitive symptoms like stress, fear about occupation, loss of job, fear, sadness, guilt, and behavioral sense. Like you would be maintaining distance, you would be wearing mask all the time, even when you are inside your house, you will be washing your hands. Your life would be crippled, essentially. And this is what happens. What are the external risks? Uncertainty, unforeseen reality. We human beings always we like some kind of certainty. Even if it is a bad certainty, we want to know, that prices are going to rise. But whether prices are going to rise or I don't know, it may go either way. That is very disturbing to us. So unforeseen reality, uncertainties, unending uncertainties, acquiring new practices and avoidance behavior. We are now told wear your mask, wash your hand. These are new behavior we have been ordered to acquire. To acquire a new behavior, it takes 40 to 60 days, which we are trying to do in no time. So that is putting us on stress. Loss of faith in health infrastructure. Oh, what would happen? Already during first wave round, we have been told, there would be like ventilator, people would die on the street, this thing, that thing. Never happened during first wave. Second wave, it happened to certain extent because of panic, trigger, this panic and mismanagement and people demanding facility when actually these were not required. Because nowhere in the world there were oxygen shortage. Nowhere in the world there were oxygen shortage. So to suddenly have this kind of oxygen shortage in India, in Delhi, Mumbai, it is a matter to be investigated by a public inquiry committee. Why suddenly people started demanding oxygen? Felt a need. It's very, very, this is a vicious cycle. People anxious, doctor feeding, doctor giving, the news media, doctors all feeding that fear, kind of triggered a vicious cycle, got out of hand. Okay, then what are other external factors? Leaders celebrating contracting COVID, when we hear that kind of news. Then statement from international bodies like World Bank, like WHO, this would happen, that would happen. Infodemia. All these things are external risk factors. And I am slightly neurotic. If I am slightly predisposed towards getting nervous, then what happens? It starts interfering with my routine life. And also catastrophic interpretation. These are coming from my colleague, my peers, from Facebook. Catastrophic interpretation. And also social amplification. I am now putting a damp water on your narrative. But another speaker would have probably put water into your fear. Oh, third wave is really, really coming. Because who is telling this? It is told by director of All India Institute of Medical Science. And somehow in India we think if you are a director, you are a big scientist. Director is an administrator. He should not be in the job of making scientific prediction. Yeah, so these are amplification, and that gives rise to coronaphobia. Already, we human being got a behavioral immune response, behavioral immune system. This is evolutionary. This has came through, through the evolutionary process. What is this? This is already to some extent dangerous because we make assumption. Immunological defense against pathogen is costly and reactive. All the immunological defense, antibodies, cell-mediated immunity we have talked about, or we and I know, these are costly on the body. Body on evolutionary terms, body wants simple mechanism to get away from danger. So easiest is to flight and fly response. If there is a mad dog, all I need to do is run away. That is called behavioral immune system. So against bugs, against microorganisms, our brain is already kind of tuned. We do not want to go near to anybody who got a infectious disease. We remain a bit distant. That is protective, but at the same time, it is crippling. It make you assumptuous. So behavioral immune system, we cannot help. You and I all got that conceptions. What happens through this behavioral immune system, we infer infection risk from perpetual coups. Coups are signs, like if I see a very dirty man, immediately I oh my goodness, I cannot go near him. That is like coups. And that respond to these coups through the activation of aversive emotion, cognitive and behavioral impulsive. Oh my goodness, I cannot go near him. Let us make some distance. If I see a leprosy patient, even if you touch him, you would not get leprosy. Leprosy is transmitted by respiratory route. All the leprosy patients we see on the street, they are not infectious. Their body is mutilated because their peripheral nerves are damaged. They cannot feel, so body get mutilated, but they are not. But we take 100 miles. We keep 100 miles away from those people, don't we? That is immune behavioral response. These processes are engaged flexibly, producing context. So we do not apply the judgment all the time. We apply some kind of judgment, but these are misjudgments usually. Very kind of judgmental type of thing. These processes have important implication for human social cognition and social behavior, including implication for social gregariousness, personal perception, intergroup prejudice, mate preferences, sexual behavior, and conformity. So it kind of affect us as a human being. We don't know, but these kind of subconscious processes shape us without us knowing. We need to know our weaknesses and strength. So this fear is changing our psychology. These few bullet points, I took it from a BBC, page, and these are observation. This is making us almost every news. What is happening now? Every newspaper has stories about coronavirus pandemic on its front page. Radio, TV programs have back-to-back coverage on the latest death tolls. Social media platforms are filled with frightening statistics. The constant bombardment can result in heightened anxiety with immediate effect on our mental health. But the constant feeling of threat may have other, more insidious, we not knowingly, we are being processed inside, we are made judgmental. This is insidious effect on our psychology. What are those? What happens? We are changing as a person due to deeply evolved response to disease, fear, and contagion. Lead us to become more conformist. If I am told, do sit up and down. If my doctor tell me, director of All India Institute of Medicine, that please do kneel down 10 times every morning, corona would keep away from you, I would probably do it. So I become more conformist, and less accepting to eccentricity. Meaning, if an eccentric person is in my household, he kind of does odd thing. Before I kind of tolerated him. Now I would not tolerate him. It kind of killed me as a person. I ceased to become Jayanta Vishwa Sharma. I ceased to become somebody judgmental. Somebody, if you tell me, okay, sit down, don't wear your mask, do this thing, that thing, I would do everything because I am so fearful. Not without, I'm not telling you that you don't wear a mask or, everything you do is, all I'm telling you that I become more obedient to the authority. Our moral judgment become harsher and our social attitude more conservative when considering issues such as immigration, sexual freedom, inequality. We become like more judgmental. It kind of got many ramifications. Some unscrupulous person can now stir up social unrest. These are very, very serious matter. In fact, that a coronaphobic person is more judgmental. I think I saw a research paper I put up in my Facebook page not so long ago. These are all substantiated by research. And now come to this. Cadavers do not transmit disease. So why these guys are doing this? Why? If you remember the picture I have shown, the virus need to get into the human cell, need to replicate, then come out of the cells, and then take a lot of struggle to get into the another person. You know, it is not so easy, even for a live virus to go from one person to another. Yes, corona is far more efficient, but still it has to struggle. Particularly if our behavior is, corona proof. If the weather is helping, corona has to, and a dead body doesn't transmit corona. It is a science. But I think even if my neighbor got a corona death, I probably stop going to his place, I would probably stop him from cremating his body in a normal crematorium. And that is why government has opened up special crematorium. And this has led to the demand, because only few crematoriums are designated as COVID protocol crematorium. That led to demand, because during the crisis time, during the panic time, everybody was given a corona test, and everybody with a faint line or a strong line or a weak positive, strong positive, false positive, every person was positive then. Everybody who died in hospital, 80-90% were given, even a cadaver is given a corona test. Dead body brought to the hospital for whatever reason, given a corona test and given a positive result and got under corona protocol. So it is no wonder that the crematoriums were busy and people took drone picture, and CNN and BBC, they were kind of spreading, doomsday scenario that India is now, my goodness, what is not happening in India. If there was no panic, if we knew that cadaver do not transmit disease, then the bodies would have been cremated in a normal manner and there would not have been any crisis. Because there are many more crematoriums in a big city like Delhi. But if you make only 5 or 8 crematorium corona specific, and no other body can, go there, everybody else has to go somewhere else, But if you evenly distributed in a normal time, the bodies would have been evenly distributed. In Guwahati, I know there are 7-8 crematoriums, but only 2 were made for COVID, COVID protocol crematorium. And during those 4, 5, 6 days, more people are dying with a positive result. Dying of corona and dying with a positive result because you swabbed him is 2 different things. You see? And who am I from a newspaper to put up a picture like this and giving my judgment as a virologist? Who am I? I am nobody. I would not dare to put up a picture and criticize corona COVID protocol, but I can, because WHO has said this. This is WHO's protocol. Family and friends may view the body after it has been prepared for burial in accordance with customs. They should not touch or kiss the body. Nobody would do that anyway. But even if you kind of otherwise would have done, don't do that. And should wash hand thoroughly with soap and water after viewing. Those tasked with placing the body in the grave or on the funeral pyre should wear gloves and wash hands with soap and water, which they do all the time after removal of the gloves once the burial is complete. So why we are making these poor people in 40-degree temperature, 40 degrees centigrade or Fahrenheit, whatever, wear plastics from head to toe? Why on earth we are doing this? And this is WHO. I have taken directly from WHO protocol. WHO was unequivocal in saying that cadaver doesn't transmit disease. And this is some statistics. It is not complete. I'm yet to, this is a fertile area of research actually. What happened during those few days? Why foreign media or domestic media kind of got into that kind of gear, that bodies are being burned, this thing, that thing, Only there were 8 COVID designated sites on April 22nd. And out of those, three operators COVID exclusive facilities, so no other body can go there. And in other 5, probably other body would not go anyway. So they were all going to anywhere, other places within the Greater Delhi. But capacity was kind of increased. But now look, after April, May, within a month, only 15% of this new COVID capacity is under utilization. If we did nothing, if we had treated COVID death as an ordinary death, there would not have been a drama like this. Because under COVID protocol, it would take considerably longer to cremate a body as well. That is also creating artificial, demand. Then come to this steroid business. This black fungus business. WHO strongly recommends that corticosteroid be given orally or intravenously for the treatment of patients with severe and critical COVID, not to everybody. And who advises against the use of corticosteroid in the treatment of patients with non-severe COVID-19. Very clear guidance. Who said that there is no use of remdesivir? Who specifically forbid to give azithromycin, chloroquine, etc. But during COVID time, each one have got COVID treatment protocol in your WhatsApp. Vitamin C, vitamin D, azithromycin, what not? For 90% COVID is a self-limiting disease, doesn't need any treatment. And those who are severely unwell, they mostly survive because of the quality of the care, not because of the medicine. Only steroid has been shown to be of some benefit in very people on ventilator. Remdesivir doesn't add to survival. It helps with the symptoms alleviation to some extent, but given the cost, that would not be recommended. So you can see coronaphobia, how coronaphobia has engulfed the whole society. And this is a oximeter. Let me tell you, even a FDA cleared pulse oximeter, Food and Drug Administration, the regulatory body in the USA, if they have approved a pulse oximeter, meaning that oximeter brand has gone through clinical validation, even that pulse oximeter would not be 100% reliable. If that oximeter read 90%, the actual result would have been anything between 86 to 94%. So even a person with 94% may get a reading of 90%, and a person with 86% oxygen may be falsely given a reading of 90%. So these are not toys to play with. And I'm talking about a clinically validated pulse oximeter. And also, accuracy is highest between 90 to 100%. Anything below 90 to 100%, if you get a intermediate, the accuracy starts going down as well. And this is the findings from a research paper done before COVID time. Many low-cost pulse oximeter sold to consumer demonstrate highly inaccurate readings. Yeah. So these are things to be borne in mind. And also, FDA tells you another thing, that if you are using a reliable, clinically validated oximeter, even with those kind of oximeter, don't rely on single reading. you need to rely on the trend. If it is gradually coming down over a period of hours or days, right now 98%, next moment it is 90%, next moment it is 87%, again it has gone to 94% after 15 minutes. These are not reliable results. These are panic driving the person, making him sort of breath according to his mental state. Anyway, yes, Chinese-made oximeter is not a tool that can be given any credence to. These are, what to tell, I hope research would come out demonstrating how much harm this kind of, improvisation, this kind of suggestion has done in a country like, resource-limited country like India. Now in South Africa, BBC, CNN is playing this scaremongering story because in South Africa, Delta variant number is going slightly up in last few days. Whereas Delta variant is nothing. It is highly transmissible, but it doesn't do anything to a people. Once a bug becomes highly transmissible, it becomes less virulent. It is like an inverse square law. Like you got laws in physics, in biology you got laws as well. A pathogen that is highly transmissible cannot be highly pathogenic, and vice versa. Very interesting. Okay, this is about post-COVID. Again, you see, after 2 weeks, you do not recover live virus from the body. If you had genuine COVID, by the end of the week, virus is taken care of. It is removed from the body. Some dead RNA, component of the virus may persist, may give a false positive result, but no viable isolation is possible after 2 weeks. If I culture, then nothing would grow. Remember, PCR test is not a culture test. It is looking for dead component, part of RNA of the virus. Very small part. Yeah. So, but still people are reporting, getting different symptoms. But this is not yet a clinical entity as well. It may be because of various things actually. It could be fatigue, decline in quality of life, muscular weakness, joint pain. That is kind of like fatigue, which can occur after any serious viral infection. There is something called post-viral fatigue. So people experiencing long-term complication could be simple post-viral fatigue. You get dyspnea, cough. These looks like quite neurotic. You are getting a lot of mental health problems. Post-traumatic stress disorder. We know people who are put through a stress situation like this on ICU, whether he has COVID or not. If you are kept in ICU for 3 weeks, you are bound to have post-traumatic stress disorder. Out of 180 would have that. So basically what I am trying to say, we do not know yet whether it would make a disease entity. So long COVID or post-COVID is a term right now, is widely used on social media, but it's not a well-defined term and not a clinical diagnosis. Not as yet. It might, I don't know. I cannot prejudge. And what you usually get, fatigue, myalgia, anxiety, low mood, this kind of non-specific things. And what we are seeing, there is a big survey recently came out in the UK. Estimated 1 in 5 testing positive for COVID-19 exhibit symptoms or that's beyond 5 weeks, 1 in 5. And 1 in 10 exhibiting symptoms beyond 12 weeks, that is beyond 3 months. So it could be just fatigue, it could be just post-traumatic stress disorder, or it could be, some kind of genuine complication from another condition maybe. So researchers are on the task trying to figure out, or maybe due to a number of different syndromes. There is another condition called post-intensive care syndrome. If you are in ICU for a long time, for whatever reason, you take long time to recover. To become your normal self, it takes months and years. then post-viral fatigue syndrome is known. After influenza, you might get that. And there may be genuinely some long-term COVID syndrome, but research is going on. We don't know yet. Some people may be suffering with more than one syndrome at a time. But people are reporting, no denying. Okay, let us see. This talk is supposed to be COVID in perspective. This is 2017 figure. So far, in 2 years, because we are given to calculate the numbers, not denominator, not within how many years. Now 4 million people died of COVID. That's a big number. But that is in 2 years. And any single year in 2017, this is probably true today as well, 9.6 million people die of cancer every single year. And lower respiratory tract infection, which would cover influenza and everything else, every year 2.56 million people die, and we are cool about it. We are cool about it. It doesn't give us any anxiety. Okay. And this is tuberculosis. This is a disease. After 90 years of vaccination program, 60 years of available drug treatment, TB is killing 1.8 million people every year. Every year. For how many years? I lost count. 2 million every year it is killing. And we are getting how many new cases? 10 million new cases. So mortality is crude, infection fatality is 2%, which is COVID IFR is actually lower than that. 1/3 of these new cases remain unknown, and many of these cases we actually don't know. They goes on silently spreading the disease. And would you believe 40% of Indian, that is 50 crores of Indian population have TB. You don't need to believe me if you don't want to, but these are lifted from WHO, document. I mean, these 50 crores people, they don't have active TB, what we call latent TB. But if I start giving steroid right and left, then many of these latent TB would resurface. It would become clinical TB. So out of those people who are getting, black fungus, I am betting now, I am making a scientific prediction that many of them would have TB reactivation as well. It is for the Indian doctors, researcher to find it out, to observe. Doctors the scientists need to observe, explain, do research to explain. They should not be in the game of or business of making prediction in media. Maternal mortality. Look at India color. This is the best place. America, Canada, the best place. Look at India's color. Same as many of the African countries. But we don't care. We don't care. Look at child mortality. So we are again, this is the best performing countries. Look at our color. It is so pale compared with some of the African countries. We don't care. Let everybody die. Only I need to survive, This is the middle class mentality. I need to store oxygen cylinder. I saw advice from even a guy from America who is an academic in America, a doctor, spreading news in WhatsApp group, Indian WhatsApp group, advising his fellow members who lives in India. Oh, this is time now to store oxygen cylinders. You see, this is spreading panic. This happened. I saw those things. He's a pathologist, He does a webinar on COVID. And on social media, on WhatsApp group, he's advising people to store oxygen. But oxygen is not a cure for COVID. Oxygen is not okay. Let me not go into those territory. This is global health, the child, in 1990, this many people died, child death was like this big square. We have made improvement. By 2017, the square got smaller. Now this COVID situation, COVID phenomenon, 2 years going on, probably would make this situation worse. This square would now would become bigger, and that would apply to many other diseases. Okay, in the UK, who are dying? Who are dying? Under 1 year, not a single baby is dying. 1 to 14 year, I don't see. This is first wave, this is second wave. Nobody is dying. Our baseline, you can barely see, is the group 15 to 44 years. Yeah, first wave, second wave, few died. But then you can see the risk over 85 years, 70 to 84 years group. It is high. It is high. But why then I will buy if director of AIMS say that, my Bhatija is going to die from COVID? Now I am supposed to stop him going out to play football? This is Delta virus. This wave, it is Delta virus. Where is the 1 to 14 years old? I don't see any number here. The line is struggling. The line is flat. I get a bit emotional, nonsense, it's difficult to digest. And look at this. What is happening to influenza, other pneumonia? Now in England, far less people are dying of COVID. More people are dying of influenza and pneumonia. You see? This is see what happened in a country like England. I mean, we don't have any statistics. What is happening, what our people are suffering, we hardly care. But this is in England. These are the people. Let me read. The slides are slightly difficult to, but look at this bottom left bottom slide. The excess debt, number of debt is a different thing. We need to compare the debt, excess debt, extra debt, compared to last 5 years average. That is the marker of an impact of a new infection or a pandemic. That is how we study the mortality figure. In the USA, excess mortality was 227 per 1,000 population. So more 227 per 1,000 population, more people dying compared to average of the last 5 years, pre-pandemic 5 years average. UK second in the row, then Italy, then France, and goes so on. India is nowhere to be seen. And what is happening, it is quite, let me read this thing. COVID-19 death in England and Wales between March, that is during the first wave, was 137,000. That is 1 in 5 of all death. That is all throughout until April this year. Total figure for the whole COVID, last year and this year. During the first wave, 52,000 died, and that is 25% more total death compared to our kind of average, last 5 years average for the corresponding month. But what happened during the second wave? The proportion gone down to 14%. So less people died compared to still more people, still 14% more. But during the first wave, 25% more people died compared to our normal average. So second wave was less brutal. And what is happening? Fewer non-COVID deaths occurred in hospital and 40% more occurred at home. So people stopped going to hospital. 59,000 excess deaths took place at home. These are people dying from other causes. They simply stopped going to the hospital. And this is about the variant. Delta virus, 98%, you know. Now I think there is news in the media right now. I think last couple of days somebody mentioned about Delta virus today. People are being now kind of, now Delta virus has been employed as a stick now, you know, to make people panic. And let me tell you, in the United Kingdom, 98% are the Delta strain. Every day we are getting 30,000-40,000 cases. England is probably just twice the size of Assam in terms of population. Assam got 2,000 cases and we are jumping up and down. And England got 40,000 cases. Most of them are false positive. And I told you, because positivity is so small, positivity is 2% in India and in the United Kingdom. So most of them are false positive in the first place. But no doubt there are genuine cases, you know, cases are transmitting a little bit at a higher level. But we are not seeing anybody dying. We are not seeing any children coming to hospital. So don't give a damn to the Delta virus, Beta virus, you know. This is a normal thing. Virus always mutates. If you go hunting for it, you will find thousands and thousands of mutations. And why a virus becomes successful? It is Darwinian evolution. If you put selection pressure, then the most efficient one survive and propagate. So trick is therefore not to put pressure if we can afford. We cannot afford sometimes because if we do not put pressure, the number of cases would rise, our hospital system would be crippled. But if we can afford, right now we can afford. We have observed that Delta virus doesn't cause serious disease. So we can actually allow the infection to go at its own will. That way, we would not be selecting out another dangerous mutant. If we put pressure on the Delta virus, tomorrow Delta 1 virus would come out of it. That would be more dangerous, more spreadable. I do not call dangerous because if they become more spreadable, they actually become more dangerous. That is the law I have referred to before. So this is from CDC, Center of Disease Control, figure I have pulled out. Only purpose is to reassure you that this is a mild disease in younger people. This is the reference group. 18 to 29 was considered as a reference group because they had the most infection. This is the group that we have detected maximum infection within this group. This is the reference group, so they are doing well. So compared to this group, 0 to 4 and 5 to 17 years, they got even less risk. Only the higher people in the higher age brackets got slightly more risk. In terms of hospitalization, 85, if you are 85 plus, 15 times more risk, and your risk of death is very high if you are, elderly. But let me tell you in no uncertain terms, COVID is not a disease of 0 to 17 years old population. Few of them might get infected, may get, but it's not a big deal. So I do not go into infection fatality rate and so on, but all I am telling you that COVID's infection fatality rate is higher than influenza, but not twice. It is a new disease. People got no immunity. There has been mismanagement. It has been chaotic. So it is understandable. I can tell you down the line, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, when we would calculate the true IFR of COVID, I think it would be at par with influenza, not more than that. But this is a hypothesis, this is a speculation on my part at the moment. Let us see. Let us keep an open mind. And look at this. Now let me contrast this with Indian situation. These are news media report. How reliable, I don't know. But compared to, this is a reference month are April to June. In 2019, in New Delhi, 27,000 people died. That is pre-COVID. 2020, 21,500 people died. Actually, less people died. There is no excess death. Unlike England, America, Italy, Japan, There is no excess death, at least in New Delhi. And the reason was attributed to less death in terms of road traffic accident because there were lockdown. But for me, the good news is that less people died. Now, 2021, more people died, 58,000, almost 59,000. But when I kind of calculated the figure from this busy slide, I found that of these, only 13,900, about 14,000 died of COVID. So non-COVID death is 44,800. So you see, this last 4 months, 2021 April to June, more people died of non-COVID region in national capital of India than COVID. This hasn't happened anywhere in the world. More people died of COVID because this is supposed to be COVID pandemic. But in our country, in our capital, more people died of non-COVID disease. So obviously, where these people were being cremated, because you are prioritizing COVID cremation by, so you can see what a sort of a chaos was created by our, I'm laughing, but it is not a laughing matter. 17,000, that is 66%. If I compare this figure to 2019, there were 66% more non-COVID deaths compared to 2019. Okay, I'm coming close to, what is, only 2 or 4 slides probably. What is this scientific prediction? Scientific prediction is based on a theory. And prediction can be deterministic or probabilistic. If it is come to when next solar eclipse would come, that would be a deterministic prediction because it is very specific. You can do some calculation. You can calculate, okay, 22nd of March 2022, there would be another, whatever. That is deterministic. But complex phenomenon like COVID, how much COVID would be next year, as you can now see, COVID, the virus is only one factor. The organization of the society, people's behavior, different meteorological factors, all comes together to determine the number of cases of COVID. Such a complex phenomenon. So you cannot apply deterministic rule to apply COVID numbers. Even whether there will be a 3rd wave or 4th wave. You apply probabilistic methodology, which we are not very good at. People are trying, this probabilistic methodology is getting kind of finer, getting refined every day, but it is not, we are not quite perfect as yet. So to predict phenomena belonging to complex system, which is influenced by numerous factors that cannot be completely accounted for, various scheme of probabilistic statistical prediction, prevision, and forecasting are used. It is highly specialized domain, highly complex, and it's a very imperfect as yet, but there is at least the recognition that complex phenomenon cannot be predicted the way we are doing mathematical modeling of COVID. No mathematical modeling has proven right for COVID because those are deterministic model. It's very complex. It's a very, you can get very philosophical as well. Very complex, very philosophical when you kind of think that. So in a way, therefore, although in my presentation, I might appear to be blaming few persons, actually I am blaming nobody. It is a complex societal phenomenon. It is like a chain reaction, got out of hand, and simply you can't do anything about it. So I have resigned to the fact. My few article last year, I kind of tried to give advice. Now I do not give advice. I simply try to explain, because this social panic, there is a good term for it. That this is called a psychogenic illness. you know, when kind of it become a wider societal, you know, psychological reaction, it gets out of hand. Okay, now this is probably my last slide. I may have 2 or 3 slides. I am questioning a third wave of coronavirus is inevitable simply because the Reuters, I don't know why Reuters started this, you know, interview. They question few experts. The moment Reuters asked me, I become an expert anyway, even if I am a non-entity. If Reuters asks me a question, I become a self-proclaimed expert. So I'm pretty sure some of these experts are self-proclaimed experts. They become experts the moment Reuters put the question to them. But anyway, Reuters surveyed about, I don't know how many, they conducted a poll between June 3 to 17 of around 40 health experts responded. And they are an anonymous, third wave is coming, you know. And also, but look at their range. Some are saying in August 21, some September, some are delaying it to February 22. What is the basis? On what basis? On what theory? Only theory I could read, oh, if you don't wear mask, if you don't do this thing, if you don't do that thing, if you don't obey curfew, then the third wave, fourth wave is coming. Whereas these measures are not doing anything on corona transmissibility in the first place. And also they are predicting that the third wave would be otherwise manageable because people would be vaccinated, you know, this thing, that thing, maybe few drugs and so on. But they are, that good bit, they are balancing it with the nightmare bit. Oh, this wave would be like killing our kids, you know. You have to be honest with people. If you panic people in the expectation that they will obey rules, you can only go so far. You have to give people genuine information. Only then you can expect good compliance. And no public health measure would be 100% effective. People would not comply to that extent, you know, to the 90% extent. And therefore, in your control strategy, that has to be factored in. That hand hygiene, mask wearing, social distancing, I am going to get only 60% compliance. You can, people are not machine. You cannot make them, you know, lie flat on sunlight. You have to be realistic if you are a strategist. I get really annoyed. So this is my last slide. I finish it off with this slide. These are bugs, bacteria, viruses, parasites, you know. The world belongs to them. You know, even our own body is occupied or being kind of friended by these, you know, bugs. So I think we do have an evolutionary kind of dislikeness for these bugs, but we need to be aware of this, that these bugs are not always our enemies. If we behave ourselves, we can probably live with many of these bugs. So with this, let me conclude. I don't know how I did, but this is my kind of concluding slide. Let me come out of my presentation now. Thank you, Sujoy, and everybody who has taken pain to.
Thank you, sir. I must say that your last slide is most significant one. We cannot, we have to stay with all of them, and it's required also. Sir, I must admit that this is a different kind of presentation. It's a almost 3 hours, 12 minutes, but it's a very, very informative, scholarly, and so far, as of today, whatever the program we have did in this channel, it's a totally different, and it's a very, very informative and all of different kind of presentation, I must say. So, dear viewers, if you have any queries or questions, please come up. Before that, I must read something. The curator from Arunachal Science Center, he wrote This is very true. High transmissibility is less pathogenicity that
Yeah.
you have already said.
Yeah.
So he agreed on it. And one more viewers, Sukanna Chaudhuri, he wrote that you are absolutely right, sir. It's becoming intolerable day by day knowing about predictions.
Yeah.
What do you
These are
say?
not predictions, these are guesswork. So don't get, convinced by these so-called predictions. These are absolute guesswork. It's unbecoming of a scientist, unbecoming of somebody whoever is in a responsible position.
Right, sir. Right. So from your presentations, and I think there is a silver lining that we hope there will be no such third wave. We are hopeful that for that.
There will be waves
Hmm.
because it is seasonal. So it is going to come when situation is right for it. And India would never be able to vaccinate every single person, and it is not necessary. I think India should prioritize. India should prioritize the hotspots, the cities.
Hmm.
It is a daunting task. What is the necessity to immunize somebody in my native village? There is no corona threat there. I would prioritize Guwahati people. So that should be the sensible policy, prioritizing the groups. And also we must remember that if we kind of make vaccinating 1 billion people, by the time you vaccinate the last one, the first one will be susceptible again, because immunity may not last that long. We don't know that yet, but it is understandable. It is that immunity probably. So we cannot rely on vaccine. We have to rely on our advantages. Our location is our advantages.
Yes,
We need to understand, decipher what happened during the last 2 waves, who suffered, why it remained restricted to those areas, how we can help those people, and testing strategy. We should not be testing people right and left. This test is not designed for this purpose.
right.
This is highly problematic. That it is not I cannot blame Indian government. This is the way everybody is doing, and WHO has made it very difficult, not to test, because this test, that kind of slogan. I think sensible voice would come up. People would make point, because everything I am saying is not obviously not mine. Who am I? But many people are writing about it, deliberating. And I'm pretty sure that rationality would prevail eventually.
Hopes are in near future all will come up on this. What basically you are trying to saying, that one day will come when everything will settle and actual findings will come up.
I think, yeah. Anybody else, or otherwise you can probably.
Right.